Ryan Cole's hands were already moving before his mind caught up, pushing through the crowd, eyes locked on the dark water where a child's head had just disappeared beneath the surface. This is what separated the living from the dead. 3 seconds of hesitation. He didn't have 3 seconds. Not anymore. Not since the day he'd lost everything that mattered and learned that some mistakes don't offer second chances. But tonight, the real danger wasn't in the water. It was standing on the beach behind him, watching with ice-blue eyes that had just made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The California sun hung low over Huntington Beach, bleeding orange and gold across the Pacific as the late afternoon shift settled into its rhythm. Ryan Cole stood on the elevated lifeguard tower, Tower 7, his station for the past 3 years. From this vantage point, 15 feet above the sand, he could see everything. The families packing up their umbrellas, the teenage surfers catching final waves, the couple arguing near the volleyball nets, the child building a castle too close to the tide line. He saw it all, cataloged it all, assessed it all. This was the job. This was survival. Ryan was 34 but looked older in the right light, younger in others. The sun had weathered his face into something carved rather than aged, and his body remained what it had always been, functional, strong, built for purpose rather than show. His dark hair, slightly too long, constantly falling into his eyes, gave him an accidental dishevelment that some of the beach regulars found charming. He didn't notice. Charm wasn't on his radar anymore. Below him the radio crackled. Tower 7, you copy? Ryan lifted the handset. Copy. Go ahead. Shaw wants to see you. Main station. End of shift. A pause. Ryan's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Copy that. Madeline Shaw, his supervisor. The woman who'd spent the last 6 months making his life simultaneously easier and impossibly complicated. He returned his attention to the water, but his mind had already shifted. Madeline Shaw was 41, though she moved like someone a decade younger. Former Olympic swimmer, 2 silvers and a bronze from Sydney, career ended by a catastrophic knee injury during the Athens trials. She'd washed up on this beach 5 years ago, taking a supervisor position that was technically beneath her qualifications but seemed to be exactly what she needed. Structure, ocean, distance from the life she'd lost. She was beautiful in a way that made men stupid. Sharp cheekbones, ice-blue eyes that missed nothing, blonde hair she kept pulled back in a ruthlessly efficient ponytail. But it was her mouth that told the real story. A soft, full lower lip that contradicted everything else about her, a vulnerability she couldn't quite discipline away. Ryan had noticed. Of course he'd noticed. He noticed everything. It was how he stayed alive, how he kept his daughter safe, how he navigated a world that had proven itself unreliable in the most devastating way possible. The shift ended at 6. Ryan climbed down from the tower, his shoulders carrying that specific fatigue that came from 6 hours of sustained vigilance. Other guards could relax between incidents. Ryan never relaxed, couldn't afford to. The main station sat at the center of the beach, a 2-story structure that housed equipment, offices, and the coordination hub for the entire stretch of coastline. Ryan entered through the side door, nodding to Marcus, a younger guard who was filling out incident reports. She's waiting in her office, Marcus said, his tone suggesting he knew something Ryan didn't. Good luck, man. Ryan ignored the implication and headed upstairs. Madeline's office was small, organized with military precision, and decorated with exactly 3 personal items: a framed photo of her standing on an Olympic podium, a shelf displaying her medals, and a single postcard from Barcelona tucked into the corner of her bulletin board. Ryan had studied this room during previous meetings, learning it the way he learned everything, systematically, looking for patterns, understanding the person through their environment. She was standing at the window when he entered, arms crossed, looking out at the darkening beach. She didn't turn. Close the door, Cole. He did. The click of the latch seemed louder than it should have. You've been here 3 years, Madeline said, still not turning. Never late, never complained, never caused problems. You're solid, reliable, the kind of guard I can count on. Thank you, Ryan said carefully. This didn't feel like a performance review. You're also completely wasted on Tower 7. Now she turned and those blue eyes locked onto him with uncomfortable intensity. You should be training new recruits, leading rescue drills. You have instincts that can't be taught. I'm fine where I am. I know you are. That's the problem. Madeline moved away from the window, perching on the edge of her desk. The late sun caught her profile, and Ryan forced himself to focus on her words, not the curve of her neck. You're hiding, Cole. I don't know from what, and frankly, it's not my business. But you're capable of more than you're giving. Ryan said nothing. This was an old argument, one they'd had in various forms since Madeline had taken over supervision. She saw potential. He saw risk. They were both right. There's a supervisor position opening, Madeline continued. North County. More responsibility, better pay. I'm recommending you for it. No, it's not a request. Then it's a recommendation I'm declining. Ryan kept his voice level, professional. I appreciate the thought, but I'm not interested in advancement right now. Why not? Because advancement meant visibility, because visibility meant scrutiny, because scrutiny meant people asking questions about his life, his choices, his daughter, because he'd learned the hard way that the higher you climbed, the farther you fell, and he couldn't risk falling, not with Emma depending on him. Personal reasons, Ryan said. Madeline studied him for a long moment, and he had the uncomfortable sensation of being assessed by someone who saw more than he wanted to show. Finally, she pushed off the desk, moving closer. They were the same height. She was tall for a woman, he was average for a man, and standing this near, he could smell chlorine and coconut sunscreen. Okay, she said quietly. Different approach. The beach festival is this weekend. Every year we do a demonstration race, lifeguards versus locals, out to the buoy and back. Good PR gets people interested in water safety. I need someone to represent the guard station. Ask Marcus. He's faster. Marcus is 23 and thinks swimming is about looking good. You swim like you're saving a life every time you enter the water. There's a difference. I have plans this weekend. Cancel them. Ryan's eyes narrowed. That sounds like an order, not a request. It's neither. Madeline stepped back and something shifted in her expression. A crack in the professional armor, a hint of something personal underneath. It's a challenge. Me against you. Out to the buoy and back. Saturday at sunset. In front of everyone. The room went very quiet. This wasn't about PR or demonstrations. This was something else entirely. Something that made Ryan's pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with competition. Why? He asked. Because I'm tired of you holding back. Her voice dropped lower, taking on an edge that was almost desperate. Because I've watched you for 6 months, and I can see you're running from something, and I want to know if you're capable of actually showing up for something that scares you. And if I win, Madeline's eyes flashed, then I'll answer any question you want to ask me, honestly. No deflection, no professional boundaries. One night, complete transparency. The offer hung between them like a lit fuse. Ryan understood immediately what she was proposing, not just a race, but a crack in the careful distance they'd both maintained. This was reckless. This was dangerous. This was the kind of risk he'd spent 3 years avoiding. And if you win, he asked, then you forget this conversation happened, take the supervisor position, and stop wasting your potential on Tower 7. Ryan laughed, short and bitter. You're serious? Completely. He should say no. Should walk out of this office, finish his shift, go home to Emma, maintain the safe, controlled life he'd built from the wreckage of his past. That was the smart choice. The safe choice. But something in Madeline's eyes, that vulnerability bleeding through the challenge, made him hesitate. She was offering him something, and it wasn't just about the race. She was showing him a mirror, asking if he had the courage to look at his own reflection. Saturday sunset, Ryan said quietly. But when I win, and I will win, I get more than one night of questions. Madeline's breath caught. What do you want? The truth. About why a woman like you would bet everything on a race with someone like me. About what you're really running from. About why you're still here on this beach instead of anywhere else in the world. That's more than one question. Then you'd better swim fast. Madeline extended her hand. Ryan took it. Her grip was strong, calloused from years of hard training, and the contact sent a shock of awareness through his system that he absolutely didn't need right now. Saturday, she confirmed. Don't make me regret this. Ryan left the office with his heart beating harder than it should have. Outside, the beach had emptied, the day crowd replaced by the evening crowd. Couples walking hand in hand, solo joggers, the hardcore surfers who stayed until the light died completely. He sat in his truck for 10 minutes, forehead against the steering wheel, before starting the engine. Emma would be waiting. His daughter, 7 years old, impossibly bright, the reason he got up every morning and the weight that pressed down on him every night. She was with Mrs. Chen, their neighbor, who watched her after school when Ryan's shifts ran late. The drive home took 20 minutes. Their apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a kitchen barely large enough for a table, but it was clean, safe, and most importantly, it was theirs. Ryan had scrubbed every surface himself when they moved in, as if he could wash away the past with enough bleach and elbow grease. Emma met him at the door, launching herself at his legs with the full-body enthusiasm only a 7-year-old could manage. Daddy, Mrs. Chen made dumplings and I helped fold them, but mine looked like blobs and she said that's okay because they taste the same anyway. Ryan scooped her up, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, strawberry, always strawberry. Blob dumplings are the best dumplings. Did you save me any? Maybe. If you're nice to me. I'm always nice to you. You made me eat broccoli yesterday. That's because I love you, troublemaker. Emma giggled, and the sound temporarily pushed everything else out of Ryan's mind. The race, Madeline, the risk he'd just agreed to take. This was what mattered. This small, perfect human who trusted him completely, who didn't know that her father was constantly terrified of failing her. After dinner, blob dumplings and rice, and after Emma's bath and bedtime story, Ryan sat alone in the kitchen with a beer he wasn't really drinking. The apartment was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic and the occasional bark from a neighbor's dog. 3 years ago, his life had imploded. His wife, Sarah, dead from an undiagnosed heart condition while he was at work. Emma, just 4 years old, finding her mother on the bathroom floor. The investigation, the questions, the suspicion in people's eyes, because how could a healthy 30-year-old just die like that? Surely someone was responsible. Surely the husband knew something. He'd been cleared, obviously. There was nothing to find because there was nothing to hide. But the damage was done. The looks, the whispers, the former friends who stopped calling. He'd packed up Emma, left Arizona, and drove until the ocean stopped them. Huntington Beach, Tower 7. A life rebuilt from nothing, held together by routine and vigilance. And now Madeline Shaw wanted him to risk it. Ryan pulled out his phone and opened a photo album he rarely looked at. Sarah, smiling on their wedding day. Sarah, pregnant with Emma. Sarah holding their newborn daughter with exhausted joy on her face. I don't know what I'm doing, he said quietly to the photos. I'm trying to keep her safe. I'm trying to do the right thing, but I'm so tired of just surviving. The photos didn't answer. They never did. Ryan put the phone away, finished the beer, and went to bed. He didn't sleep well. Saturday arrived wrapped in perfect California weather, cloudless sky, temperature in the mid-70s, gentle offshore breeze. The beach festival was in full swing by noon, the coastline packed with vendors, musicians, families, and the kind of chaotic energy that made Ryan's teeth ache. He dropped Emma with Mrs. Chen for the evening, enduring his daughter's excited questions about the race. She knew he worked at the beach but didn't fully understand what lifeguards did. To her, Daddy just went swimming for his job, which sounded like the best job in the world. The race was scheduled for 6:30, time to catch the golden hour light that would make for good photos and social media content. Ryan arrived at 5, giving himself time to warm up and mentally prepare. Marcus found him stretching near the equipment shed. Dude, you're really racing Shaw? The younger guard looked genuinely shocked. That woman's a machine. She still swims 2 hours every morning before shift. I've seen her times. She could probably still qualify for nationals. Thanks for the confidence boost. I'm just saying, maybe don't embarrass yourself too badly. She's our boss. Ryan didn't answer. He finished stretching and headed for the water, needing to feel it, to remember what it demanded and what it gave. The Pacific was cold, even in summer, a shock to the system that demanded respect. Ryan waded into his waist, then dove under, letting the ocean envelope him. Here, Underwater, the world's noise disappeared. There was only pressure, cold, the salt sting in his eyes, the burn in his lungs. He surfaced, shaking water from his hair, and found Madeline standing on the beach watching him. She was in a competition swimsuit, dark blue, professional, covering more than it revealed, but somehow making her look more dangerous than any bikini could have. Her hair was in a tight braid, her expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. "Warming up?" she called. "Getting reacquainted," Ryan replied, swimming closer to shore. "It's been a while since I raced." "How long?" "Since before Emma was born. Maybe 9 years." Madeline pulled off her sunglasses, and he saw surprise in those blue eyes. "You have a daughter?" "Yeah, 7 years old. She's the reason for everything." Something shifted in Madeline's expression. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. "The personal reasons you mentioned." "Yeah." A pause. Around them, festival crowds were gathering, drawn by the promise of entertainment. Ryan could see the local news crew setting up cameras. "We don't have to do this," Madeline said quietly. "If I'm pushing you into something you're not ready for—" "I'm here," Ryan interrupted. "I said I'd race, and I will. Question is whether you're ready for what happens when I win." Madeline's smile was slow, dangerous. "There's that confidence I've been waiting to see. Hold on to it. You'll need it." The race organizer called them over, a cheerful woman named Beth who ran the festival committee and took her volunteer position very seriously. She explained the rules, straight out to the buoy, approximately 400 meters, around it, straight back. First one to cross the ankle-deep water wins. No equipment, no drafting, no interference. "This is just for fun," Beth emphasized, oblivious to the actual stakes. "Good sportsmanship, big smiles for the cameras, and whoever wins gets bragging rights and a gift certificate to the beachside cafe." "Bragging rights," Madeline repeated, looking at Ryan. "That's all we need." They lined up at the water's edge. The crowd had grown, easily 200 people, maybe more. Ryan scanned them automatically, a habit, looking for Emma even though he knew she wasn't there. The starting horn blew. Ryan hit the water in a clean dive, muscle memory taking over. The ocean received him like an old friend, cold and demanding and honest. He surfaced into a freestyle stroke, finding his rhythm, not pushing too hard too early. 400 meters out, 400 back. This was about pacing, conservation, knowing when to spend energy and when to save it. Beside him, Madeline swam with mechanical precision. Her stroke was textbook perfect, high elbow catch, powerful pull, minimal splash. Olympic form, even after years away from competition. She pulled ahead in the first 100 meters and Ryan let her go. This was fatherhood distilled to physical action, patience, endurance, knowing that the sprint didn't matter as much as finishing strong. The buoy grew larger. Ryan could hear Madeline's breathing now, quick and controlled. She reached it first, executed a perfect flip turn around it. Ryan followed 5 seconds behind, and that's when he made his move. The return journey was where everything changed. Madeline's perfect form started breaking down. A slight hesitation in her stroke, a different breathing pattern. The old injury, Ryan realized. Her knee was compensating for strain her body couldn't quite handle anymore. He could pass her easily, could destroy her lead and her pride in one brutal surge. Instead, Ryan matched her pace, stayed close but not threatening, let her fight her own battle against her body's limitations. They were 100 meters from shore when Madeline faltered, just a half-second pause in her stroke, but enough. Pain, clearly visible in the way she caught her breath. Ryan pulled alongside her. "You good?" "Don't," she gasped. "Don't you dare, let me win." Not planning to. He surged ahead then, not dramatically but definitively, past her with clean, strong strokes that didn't show off, just got the job done. Reached the shallows, stood, walked through the ankle-deep water across the finish line. Madeline finished 7 seconds later, breathing hard, limping slightly as she emerged from the ocean. The crowd cheered, cameras flashed. Beth rushed over with congratulations and the promised gift certificate. Ryan accepted it all with polite detachment, his attention on Madeline. She met his eyes, and something passed between them. Acknowledgement, respect, and underneath it all, that dangerous spark of anticipation. "Tonight," she said quietly, loud enough for only him to hear. "My place, 8 o'clock. Come prepared for answers you might not want. Then she walked away, limping slightly but with her head high, and Ryan understood that he'd just won more than a race. He'd won a truth he wasn't sure either of them was ready for. The rest of the festival passed in a blur. People congratulated him. Marcus slapped his back. The news crew asked for a brief interview, which Ryan deflected as politely as possible. He collected the gift certificate, answered questions about training routines he didn't actually have, and counted the minutes until he could leave. At 7:30, after checking on Emma one more time, she was already asleep, Mrs. Chen assured him, worn out from a day of playing. Ryan stood in his bathroom staring at his reflection. He was about to cross a line he'd carefully avoided for 3 years, about to let someone see past the careful walls he'd built, about to risk the stability he'd fought so hard to create, about to choose something for himself, not just for Emma. The address Madeline had texted him led to a small beach bungalow 3 blocks from the main strip, old California construction, probably built in the 60s, weathered wood and salt-stained windows. A single light burned in the front window. Ryan sat in his truck for 3 full minutes before getting out. The door opened before he could knock. Madeline stood there in jeans and a simple white t-shirt, barefoot, hair down for the first time since he'd known her. She looked younger like this, more uncertain. "You came," she said. "I won the race. You offered answers." "I did." Madeline stepped back, letting him enter. "And unlike some people, I keep my promises." The bungalow's interior matched its exterior. Simple, clean, impersonal except for the trophies. They were everywhere. On shelves, on the mantel, some still in boxes never fully unpacked. A museum of a life that ended 12 years ago, preserved in dust and memory. Ryan moved to the largest trophy, the Olympic silver medal from Sydney, mounted in a glass case. 200-meter butterfly, Madeline said from behind him. "I was 19, thought I'd win gold. Came in second by 0.08 seconds. It destroyed me for months." "But you kept swimming." "Of course I did. That's what you do. You don't quit just because you're devastated. You train harder. You fix what broke. You try again." Ryan turned to look at her. "Until Athens." Madeline's expression tightened. "Until Athens. Until my knee decided that 12 years of Olympic-level training was enough. Until surgery number 1, then 2, then 3. Until my coach told me the truth. I could keep trying, keep destroying my body, or I could walk away while I could still walk." "So you came here." "So I washed up here, like a piece of driftwood nobody knew what to do with." Madeline moved to the kitchen, a small galley-style setup that opened to the living room. "I made dinner. Nothing fancy. Hope you're not allergic to garlic." "I'm not allergic to anything." "Of course you're not. You're probably medically perfect in every way, aren't you?" There was an edge to her voice that hadn't been there before. Something raw and almost angry. Ryan followed her into the kitchen. "You're angry I won." "I'm angry you held back." Madeline pulled a pan from the oven, roasted chicken, vegetables, the smell suddenly filling the small space. "I watched you, Ryan. You could have passed me at the 200-meter mark, could have left me in your wake. But you waited until I was already hurting, already struggling. Why?" "Because beating you when you were at your best mattered more than embarrassing you when you were injured." Madeline set the pan down hard enough to rattle. "I don't need your pity." "It wasn't pity, it was respect." Ryan moved closer into her space, refusing to back down. "You challenged me to show up, to stop holding back." "I did. But that doesn't mean I have to be cruel about it." They stood like that for a long moment, tension crackling between them like static electricity. Finally, Madeline's shoulders dropped. "I'm not good at this," she said quietly. "At letting people see me like this. Vulnerable. Broken." "You're not broken." "My knee is." "Your knee is injured. You're something else entirely." Madeline looked up at him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You won the race. You get your answers. What do you want to know?" Ryan pulled out a chair at her small kitchen table. "Let's start with dinner. Then we'll get to the questions that brought me here." They ate in near silence, the kind of quiet that wasn't uncomfortable but spoke to two people who'd learned to be alone. The chicken was good, simple, perfectly seasoned. Madeline ate like an athlete, methodically, efficient. "Emma," she said finally, "you've never mentioned her at work. Not once in 3 years. I don't talk about her at work. Why not? Ryan set down his fork. Because the last time people knew too much about my personal life, they used it against me. After my wife died, people had questions, assumptions. There was an investigation, even though there was nothing to investigate. Some people thought I was responsible somehow. That maybe I'd done something, missed something, been negligent. Child services got involved. For 3 weeks, I didn't know if they'd take Emma away from me. Madeline's face had gone pale. Ryan, they didn't, obviously. There was nothing to find. Sarah had an undiagnosed heart condition. It was nobody's fault, just biology being cruel. But the damage was done. People looked at me differently, looked at Emma differently. So I packed us up, drove to California, and decided that the less people knew about my daughter, the safer she'd be. From what? From judgment, from speculation, from people who think they know better than I do how to raise my child. Ryan met her eyes. I know it sounds paranoid, maybe it is, but Emma is all I have left of Sarah, and I will burn down the world before I let anyone hurt her. Madeline reached across the table, her hand covering his. You're a good father. I'm a terrified father who pretends to be good at it. That's the same thing. They finished eating. Madeline cleared the dishes, moving around the small kitchen with practiced efficiency. Ryan watched her, noting the slight limp she couldn't quite hide, the way she favored her left leg. Your turn, he said finally. Why the race? Why the challenge? Why offer yourself up like that? Madeline leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Because I'm 41 years old and I've been alone for 12 years. Because I've been terrified of emotional dependence since my body betrayed me and I realized I couldn't trust anything, including myself. Because I've watched you for 6 months and seen someone who understands exactly what it means to rebuild your life from rubble. And because I'm tired, Ryan, so tired of being strong and disciplined and professional all the time. So you challenged me to a race? So I challenged you to see me, really see me. Not the supervisor, not the former Olympian, not the woman who has her life together. Just me, Madeline, scared and lonely and wanting something I've convinced myself I don't deserve. Ryan stood, crossing the small distance between them. What is it you think you don't deserve? Connection, intimacy. Someone who doesn't see me as broken goods. I don't see broken goods. What do you see? Ryan studied her face, the sharp cheekbones, the vulnerable mouth, the eyes that had seen too much and still somehow held hope. I see someone who's been brave enough to show up even when it terrifies her. Someone who challenged me because she recognized a fellow coward and wanted both of us to do better. Someone who makes better chicken than I do, which is honestly impressive. Madeline laughed, short and surprised. That's your big observation? My cooking? I'm working up to the profound stuff. Give me time. You won the race, remember? You get to ask anything you want. Ryan moved closer until there was barely space between them. Here's what I want. I want you to tell me the real reason you're still here on this beach. Not the surface reason, not the professional excuse. The truth. Madeline's breath caught. Because leaving would mean admitting I failed. That my body quit before my will did. That I'm not who I thought I was. And because staying here, in sight of the ocean, means I can pretend I'm still connected to the thing I loved most. It's pathetic, I know. It's human. Same thing. No, Ryan said quietly. It's not. Pathetic is giving up. You didn't give up, you redirected. You found a different way to stay connected to water, to safety, to purpose. That's not failure, that's adaptation. You're being generous. I'm being honest, there's a difference. Ryan paused, weighing his next words. I didn't come here tonight for games, Madeline. I didn't race you for bragging rights or a gift certificate. I came because I recognized something in you that I've been avoiding in myself. What's that? The possibility that survival isn't the same as living. That maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop running from connection and start running toward it. Madeline's eyes searched his face. That's a pretty speech for someone who keeps his daughter a secret from his coworkers. Yeah, well, like I said, fellow coward recognizing fellow coward. So what do we do about it? Ryan took a breath, aware that his next words would change everything. We stop hiding, both of us. From each other, at least. No more professional distance. No more pretending this isn't happening. If we're doing this, we do it honestly. People will talk. Let them. The guard station has rules, which you'll navigate because you're brilliant and disciplined, and you've been following rules your entire life. You know how to work the system. You sound very confident for someone who just admitted to being a coward. I learned from the best. Madeline shook her head, but she was smiling. You're dangerous, you know that? I'm a single father who works as a lifeguard and drives a 10-year-old truck. I'm the opposite of dangerous. That's exactly why you're dangerous. Madeline reached up, her hand cupping his face. You make vulnerability look like strength. You make me want things I've told myself I can't have. Like what? Instead of answering, Madeline kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, two people who'd forgotten how this worked. Then Ryan's arms came around her waist, and Madeline's hands threaded into his hair, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Madeline rested her forehead against his. I'm terrified, she whispered. Me too. What if we mess this up? We probably will. That's not reassuring. I'm not trying to reassure you. I'm trying to be honest. Ryan pulled back enough to see her face. I can't promise this will work. I can't promise I won't panic and pull away when things get hard. I can't promise anything except that I'll try. For you, for me, for whatever this could be. That's more than I've had in 12 years. They stood like that, wrapped in each other, while outside the ocean kept its eternal rhythm, and inside both of them, something shifted, walls coming down, defenses lowering, the possibility of something real taking root in soil that had been barren for too long. The evening stretched into night. They talked about everything and nothing. Emma's favorite books, Madeline's regrets about Athens, Ryan's fears about being a good father, Madeline's dreams about what came next. They finished a bottle of wine. They sat on her small couch, Madeline's bad knee propped on Ryan's lap while he massaged it without thinking. Muscle memory from years of taking care of Sarah when she was pregnant. You're good at this, Madeline murmured, eyes half closed. Lots of practice. Tell me about her, Sarah. Ryan's hands paused, then continued their careful work. She was loud. That's what I remember most. Loud laugh, loud opinions, loud presence. She filled every room she entered. I was the quiet one, the background guy. She used to joke that she talked enough for both of us. You loved her. Yeah, I did. Still do, in a way. Not the same way, but she's Emma's mother. That love doesn't just disappear. I'm not asking you to forget her. I know. Ryan looked at Madeline, this woman who is brave enough to be vulnerable, strong enough to admit weakness. But I need you to know that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the past while building something new. I can live with that. They kissed again, slower this time, deeper. Ryan felt Madeline's hands on his chest, tracing the line of his collarbone, testing boundaries. He caught her wrist gently. Not tonight, he said. Madeline pulled back, confusion in her eyes. Why not? Because I need to go slow. Because I haven't been with anyone since Sarah, and I need this to mean something beyond physical. Because Emma wakes up early and I need to be home before she realizes I was gone all night. Because you're a good man who thinks things through, Madeline finished. Okay, slow. I can do slow. Can you? I've been doing slow for 12 years. What's a little longer? Ryan stood, reluctantly pulling away from her warmth. I should go. Yeah, you should. But Madeline walked him to the door, their hands linked. Tomorrow? Tomorrow I have Emma all day. It's Sunday. We do pancakes and the beach and homework. Monday then, coffee before shift? Monday, coffee. Ryan paused at the door. Madeline? Thank you. For what? For seeing me, for challenging me, for being brave enough to take the risk. We both took the risk. Yeah, Ryan said, smiling. We did. He kissed her one more time, soft and sweet, a promise of more to come. Then he walked to his truck, drove home through empty streets, and slipped into his apartment like a teenager coming home past curfew. Emma was asleep in her bed, arms wrapped around the stuffed dolphin he'd bought her their first week in California. Ryan stood in her doorway, watching her breathe, and felt the weight of what he'd just done settle over him. He'd opened a door, let someone in, risked the careful stability he'd built, and for the first time in 3 years, he didn't feel afraid. He felt alive. Monday morning arrived with the kind of aggressive cheerfulness only Southern California could manage. Blinding sunshine, 72 degrees by 7 a.m., and the smell of salt water mixing with coffee from the beachside cafes. Ryan sat in his truck outside the Pier Coffee House, 10 minutes early, watching through the window as the morning rush ebbed and flowed. Emma had been full of questions at breakfast. Where did Daddy go Saturday night? Why was he smiling at his phone? Could they get a puppy? The questions came rapid fire, the way they always did, and Ryan had deflected with practiced ease while making her favorite pancakes, chocolate chip with too much syrup, exactly how Sarah used to make them. Daddy had a work thing, he'd told her, which wasn't exactly a lie. And no, we're not getting a puppy. Our apartment doesn't allow pets. Mrs. Chen has a cat. Mrs. Chen owns her apartment. We rent ours. That's not fair. Life rarely is, troublemaker. Now finish your breakfast or you'll be late for school. She'd grumbled but complied, and Ryan had dropped her off with the usual routine. Hug, kiss on the forehead, remind her to be kind to others, watch her disappear into the building with her backpack bouncing against her small shoulders. Then he'd driven to the beach, to this coffee shop, to this moment that felt simultaneously inevitable and terrifying. Madeline appeared at 7:15, walking down the pier with that slight limp she couldn't quite hide. She was in civilian clothes, running shorts and a tank top that showed the definition in her shoulders, sunglasses pushed up into her hair. She looked softer than she did in her supervisor uniform, more approachable, and Ryan felt his pulse kick up as she spotted his truck and smiled. He got out, meeting her on the sidewalk. For a moment they just stood there, two people who'd crossed a line and weren't quite sure what came next. "Hi," Madeline said. "Hi yourself." "This is weird, right? This feels weird." "Extremely weird," Ryan agreed. "Want to get coffee and pretend it's not? That sounds like a terrible coping mechanism." "I'm full of those." They ordered inside, black coffee for Ryan, some complicated latte thing for Madeline that involved oat milk and an extra shot, and found a table outside where they could watch the early morning surfers catching waves. Madeline wrapped her hands around her cup, not drinking, just holding it. "I didn't sleep much last night." "Me neither. Kept thinking about what we're doing, what it means. What could go wrong? Find any good answers?" "Not a single one." She finally looked at him, those blue eyes direct and searching. "I have to disclose this. Us. To HR. There are policies about supervisors and subordinates." Ryan had known this was coming, but still felt his stomach tighten. "Okay. What does that mean?" "It means I file paperwork. It means they'll probably reassign one of us to different stations to avoid conflict of interest. It means people will know." "You worried about what they'll say?" "I'm worried about you," Madeline said bluntly. "You've spent 3 years keeping your private life private. This blows that up. People will ask questions about Emma, about your past, about why a single father is dating his supervisor. Are you ready for that?" Ryan sipped his coffee, buying time to think. The old instinct was to run, to shut this down before it became complicated. But he'd meant what he said Saturday night. Survival wasn't the same as living. "I can't control what people think," he said finally. "I can only control how I respond to it. And I'd rather deal with gossip than spend another 3 years pretending I don't want something more than just existing." "That's very evolved of you." "Don't give me too much credit. I'm terrified." "Good. Me too. At least we're terrified together." Madeline finally took a drink of her latte, then made a face. "This tastes like cardboard." "That's because you ordered something with 17 ingredients. Coffee should be simple," says the man who probably thinks seasoning is controversial. "I season. I'm an excellent cook." "Prove it. Make me dinner sometime." Ryan felt something warm bloom in his chest. "That an invitation? That's a challenge. You seem to respond well to those." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, Watching an older couple walk past hand in hand, matching visors and fanny packs, marking them as tourists. The woman was laughing at something the man said, her whole face bright with it. "That's what I want," Madeline said quietly. "Someday, someone to laugh with, someone who still wants to hold my hand when we're 70. That's a long-term goal. I'm an athlete. We think in 4-year cycles minimum. I'm a single father. I think in 20-minute increments between crises. Then we'll meet in the middle, 2-year plans. Think you can handle that?" Ryan looked at her, this woman who was brave enough to want things out loud, and made a decision. "Yeah, I think I can." They finished their coffee and walked to the main station together, not quite touching, but close enough that their shoulders brushed occasionally. Other guards were arriving for the morning shift. Marcus pulling up in his obnoxiously loud Jeep, Sarah Chen, no relation to Mrs. Chen, Ryan had verified, parking her bicycle in the rack, Tom Rodriguez already in uniform and looking disgustingly alert for this hour. Tom spotted them first. "Well, well, boss lady having coffee with Cole. This a new employee development program I should know about." Madeline's expression went professionally neutral so fast Ryan almost got whiplash. "Just discussing the weekend demonstration. Cole represented the station well." "Yeah, I heard you got smoked," Tom said to Madeline, grinning. "About time someone beat you at something." 7 seconds is hardly smoked, Rodriguez, and if you'd like to try your luck, I'm happy to arrange another race. Pass. I value my ego too much. They dispersed to prep for the day, and Ryan felt the loss of Madeline's presence like a physical thing. This was going to be the hard part, navigating professional boundaries while building personal ones, keeping work separate from everything else they were trying to create. The morning shift was routine. A few tourists needing directions, one kid with a scraped knee from the rocks, a group of teenagers who thought swimming in a riptide zone was a fun idea and needed to be redirected. Ryan handled it all with his usual efficiency, but his mind kept drifting to the conversation with Madeline, to the paperwork she was going to file, to what came next. At 11, his radio crackled. "Tower 7, report to main station. Shaw wants to see you." Ryan felt every nearby guard turn to look at him. Marcus made an exaggerated ooh sound. Sarah Chen pretended not to listen, while clearly listening intently. "Copy," Ryan said, keeping his voice level. He climbed down from the tower and made the walk to the main station, aware of eyes tracking him. This was it. The beginning of people knowing, of privacy dissolving, of his carefully controlled life becoming subject to speculation. Madeline was in her office with a man Ryan didn't recognize, mid-50s, bureaucratic-looking, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Cole, this is Dale Brennan. He's from County HR. We're doing the disclosure interview now, if you're comfortable with that." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Sure." The next 30 minutes were professionally excruciating. Brennan asked questions with the enthusiasm of someone filling out tax forms. When did the relationship start? What was the nature of it? Were there any concerns about favoritism or professional compromise? Did either party feel pressured or coerced? Ryan answered honestly, clearly, while Madeline sat rigid in her chair and responded with similar precision. "Right," Brennan said finally, making notes. "Standard procedure in these cases, we'll need to reassign one of you to maintain ethical boundaries. Ms. Shaw, given your supervisory role and tenure, you'll remain at this station. Mr. Cole, we can transfer you to South Pier or North County, your choice. Both stations have openings." Ryan felt something cold settle in his stomach. Transfer meant different hours, different location, potentially different days off. Transfer meant complicating the already complex logistics of single parenthood. "How soon?" he asked. 2 weeks. Enough time to train your replacement at Tower 7. North County, Ryan said, making the calculation quickly. North County was closer to Emma's school, would give him flexibility on pickup times. "I'll take North County," Brennan made a note. "Good. We'll process the paperwork. You'll start there March 1st. Any questions?" About 1,000, but none Brennan could answer. "No, we're good." "Excellent. Ms. Shaw, I'll need your signature on a few forms. Mr. Cole, you're dismissed." Ryan left the office feeling like he'd just been processed by some impersonal machine. In the hallway, Marcus was waiting with barely suppressed glee. Dude, are you seriously dating Shaw? That's not really your business. That's a yes. Holy hell. How long has this been going on? Marcus, does she like movies? She seems like she'd be into documentaries. Real serious stuff. You know what? I bet she cries at sad movies and pretends she doesn't. That's totally her vibe. Despite everything, Ryan almost smiled. Don't you have a tower to man? Tower 3 can survive without me for 5 minutes. This is huge, Cole. The Ice Queen has a heart. People are going to lose their minds. Please don't call her that. What, Ice Queen? Everyone calls her that. She doesn't exactly radiate warmth. Maybe because people call her things like Ice Queen, and she's protecting herself, Ryan said, sharper than intended. Maybe if everyone stopped making assumptions and actually saw her as a person instead of a former athlete or a hard supervisor, she wouldn't need to be so guarded. Marcus blinked. Damn, you've got it bad. I've got nothing except a transfer to North County and a headache. Now seriously, go do your job before I tell Shaw you've been gossiping. Marcus left, still grinning, and Ryan knew the news would be all over the station within an hour. He was right. By lunch, 3 different guards had found excuses to talk to him. Casual questions about the transfer, transparent fishing for information about his relationship. One brave soul asking outright if Madeline was as intense in her personal life as she is professionally. Ryan shut that down fast. Her personal life is personal, including mine. We done here? He spent his lunch break in his truck, eating a sandwich Emma had helped make the night before. Too much mustard, slightly squashed, perfect. His phone buzzed with a text. Madeline. How bad is the gossip? Ryan. Scale of 1 to 10? About an 8. Madeline. I'm sorry. I knew this would happen, but I'm still sorry. Ryan. Don't be. We knew what we were signing up for. Madeline. Dinner tonight. My place? I'll prove I can cook something other than roasted chicken. Ryan hesitated, thinking about Emma, about logistics, about the fact that he was already disrupting their routine more than he'd planned. Ryan, can't tonight. Emma has a school thing. Tomorrow? Madeline, tomorrow works. Bring Emma if you want. I should probably meet her at some point if we're doing this. Ryan stared at the message for a long moment. This was real. This was Madeline asking to meet his daughter, to integrate into his life in a way that was permanent and serious. This was the moment he could still back out, could say it was too soon, could keep the walls up just a little longer. Ryan, let me talk to her first. Prepare her. She's going to have questions. Madeline, of course, whenever you're ready. Ryan, thank you for understanding. Madeline, thank you for not running. The afternoon shift was quieter. Ryan returned to Tower 7, scanned the water, tracked the patterns of waves and people. This was his last 2 weeks here, he realized. Last 2 weeks of this view, this specific stretch of beach, this routine he'd built. Change was coming whether he was ready or not. At 4, his shift ended. Ryan headed home, stopping at the grocery store to pick up ingredients for Emma's favorite dinner, spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, the kind of simple comfort food that made her happy. He was in the produce section, debating between regular garlic and the pre-minced kind, when someone called his name. Ryan? Ryan Cole? He turned and felt his blood run cold. Jennifer Morrison stood there with a shopping cart, wearing expensive yoga pants and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jennifer, who'd been Sarah's best friend. Jennifer, who'd been one of the loudest voices suggesting Ryan had somehow been responsible for his wife's death. Jennifer, he said, keeping his voice neutral. Didn't know you lived out here. Just moved 6 months ago. Divorce. She said it like it was his fault somehow. And you're here too. Small world. Very small. I heard you were working at the beach. Lifeguard, right? That's different from engineering. It pays the bills. Jennifer's eyes went sharp with something that looked like concern but felt like judgment. And Emma? How is she? She's fine. Great, actually. Happy, healthy, doing well in school. That's good. That's really good. You know, after everything that happened, I worried about her, about whether she was getting the care she needed. It must be so hard being a single father. There it was, the implication, the suggestion that he wasn't enough, that Emma deserved better, that Sarah's death had somehow proved his inadequacy. Emma has everything she needs, Ryan said carefully. We're doing well. I'm sure you are. It's just, well, children need stability. They need consistency. They need a mother figure. Jennifer glanced at his empty ring finger. Are you seeing anyone? Because if not, I know several lovely women who might be. I appreciate the concern, but we're fine. Emma's fine. I need to finish shopping. He turned away before she could respond, abandoning the garlic entirely and heading for the checkout. His hands were shaking slightly as he loaded groceries onto the conveyor belt, rage and old hurt mixing into something toxic. This was what he'd been avoiding. This judgment, this assumption that he wasn't enough, that Emma needed rescuing from her own father. And now, with Madeline in his life, it would only get worse. People would have opinions about the age difference, about dating his supervisor, about whether this was good for Emma or selfish or rushed. Ryan paid for the groceries, drove home, and sat in the parking lot for 5 minutes practicing the breathing exercises his grief counselor had taught him 3 years ago. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Repeat until the anger faded into something manageable. Emma was waiting in Mrs. Chen's apartment, doing homework at the kitchen table. She looked up when Ryan entered, her face brightening instantly. Daddy, Mrs. Chen taught me how to write my name in Chinese. Look! She showed him a paper covered in careful strokes that might have been her name or might have been random characters. Ryan praised it enthusiastically, thanked Mrs. Chen, and carried Emma and her backpack home. While he cooked dinner, Emma chattered about her day. Recess drama involving someone named Madison, a quiz she'd aced in math, plans for an upcoming field trip to the aquarium. Ryan listened with half his attention, the other half still processing the encounter with Jennifer and what it meant. Over spaghetti, Emma grew quieter, studying him with the unnerving perception children sometimes displayed. Are you sad? She asked finally. No, baby, not sad. Just thinking. About what? Ryan set down his fork. This was it, the moment to start preparing her, to begin integrating Madeline into their life in a way that was honest and age-appropriate. You know how sometimes daddies have friends who are grown-ups? Like Mr. Rodriguez from your work? Sort of, but different. I'm talking about a special kind of friend. Someone who's important to me in a different way. Emma's eyes went wide. Like a girlfriend? The word sounded strange in her 7-year-old voice, weighted with implications she didn't fully understand. Yeah, like a girlfriend. Would that be okay with you? If Daddy had a girlfriend? Emma was quiet for a long moment, twirling spaghetti on her fork with careful concentration. Would she be nice? Very nice. She's strong and smart, and she works with me at the beach. Does she like kids? I think so, but she doesn't have any of her own, so she's not used to them like I am. Would she try to be my new mommy? Ryan felt his chest tighten. No, sweetheart. Nobody's trying to replace mommy. Mommy will always be your mommy, even though she's not here anymore. This is different. How? It's like, you know how you have lots of different people in your life who care about you? You have me and Mrs. Chen and your teachers and your friends. Each person is special in their own way, right? This would be like that. Another person who cares about you, but in a different way than mommy did. Emma considered this with the seriousness only children could bring to complex emotional territory. Can I meet her? You want to? I want to know if she's nice, and if she likes spaghetti, because if she doesn't like spaghetti, I don't think we should trust her. Despite everything, Ryan laughed. That's a very reasonable standard. I'll make sure to ask. They finished dinner, did Emma's bath routine, read 2 chapters of the book they were working through, something about dragons and a girl who could talk to them. Emma fell asleep halfway through chapter 2, and Ryan sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, just watching her breathe. She was so small, so trusting, so dependent on him to make the right choices. Bringing Madeline into their life was a risk. What if it didn't work out? What if Emma got attached and then things fell apart? What if he was being selfish, choosing his own happiness over his daughter's stability? But then he thought about Madeline's question. What if survival wasn't the same as living? What if showing Emma that it was possible to rebuild after loss, to choose connection over fear, to risk being hurt in pursuit of something real? What if that was actually the better lesson? Ryan pulled out his phone and texted Madeline. Ryan, talk to Emma. She wants to meet you. Fair warning. She's going to judge you based on your spaghetti opinions. Madeline, I love spaghetti. Am I in? Ryan, provisionally, you're on probation. Madeline, I can work with that. When? Ryan, this weekend? Saturday afternoon? We usually go to the beach, but we could do something else. Madeline, the beach is perfect. I'll bring supplies for sandcastles. Do 7-year-olds still like sandcastles, or have I dated myself? Ryan, sandcastles are eternal. She'll love it. Madeline, I'm nervous. Ryan, me too. Madeline, we're a mess, aren't we? Ryan, the best kind. He put the phone away and went to his own room, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind kept cycling through scenarios. Emma meeting Madeline, the gossip at work, running into more people from his past, the transfer to North County, the 1,000 small ways this could all go wrong. But underneath the anxiety was something else. Something that felt like hope, like possibility, like the first warm day after a long winter. The week passed in a strange duality. At work, Ryan was hyper-aware of the looks, the whispers, the way conversation stopped when he entered the break room. Some guards were supportive. Sarah Chen gave him a thumbs up. Tom Rodriguez offered awkward but genuine congratulations. Others were less kind. Ryan heard midlife crisis muttered behind his back, heard speculation about whether he was taking advantage or whether Madeline was slumming it. He ignored it all with the practice of someone who'd weathered worse. Meanwhile, Madeline maintained perfect professionalism at work, but texted him throughout each day, stupid observations about difficult beachgoers, photos of pelicans stealing someone's lunch, questions about Emma's favorite colors and foods and activities. She was trying, Ryan realized, trying to know his daughter before meeting her, trying to get this right. Friday night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He got up at 2 a.m. and found himself standing in the living room, looking at the photos he kept on the bookshelf. Sarah smiling on their wedding day. Sarah pregnant. Sarah holding newborn Emma. I think you'd like her, he said quietly to the photos. Madeline, I mean. She's nothing like you, quiet where you were loud, controlled where you were spontaneous. But she's good. She's real. And she makes me want to try again. The photos didn't answer, but Ryan felt something settle in his chest anyway. Permission, maybe, or just acceptance that moving forward didn't mean forgetting. Saturday arrived bright and clear. Ryan woke Emma early, helped her pick an outfit. She chose her favorite purple swimsuit with the dolphins on it and her pink shorts, and made pancakes while she bounced around the kitchen with excess energy. Is today the day I meet your girlfriend? She asked for the 17th time. Yes, today is the day. But Em, remember what we talked about? She's not trying to replace Mommy. She's just another person who cares about me in a different way. I know, Daddy. You told me like 100 times. Just wanted to make sure you understood. I understand. Can we bring the good buckets? The ones with the starfish on them? We can bring whatever you want. They loaded the truck with beach gear. Towels, buckets, shovels, sunscreen, the small cooler with juice boxes and snacks. Emma insisted on bringing her collection of plastic sea creatures just in case they were needed for sandcastle decorating. Ryan didn't argue. The drive to the beach took 15 minutes. Emma sang along to the radio, making up words when she didn't know the real ones. Ryan's hands were tight on the steering wheel, and he had to consciously relax his grip. Madeline was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her car with studied casualness. She'd dressed carefully, board shorts and a simple tank top, hair in a braid, sunglasses hiding her eyes. In her hands, she held a bag that Ryan could see was full of serious sandcastle equipment. That her? Emma whispered loudly from the back seat. That's her. She's pretty. Yeah, she is. Ryan parked and got out. Madeline straightened, pulling off her sunglasses, and her nervousness was so visible that Ryan felt his own anxiety lessen slightly. They were both terrified. That somehow made it better. Hi, Madeline said. Hi. Ryan opened the back door and helped Emma out. Em, this is Madeline. Madeline, this is Emma. Emma looked up at Madeline with unabashed curiosity. Do you like spaghetti? Madeline blinked, thrown by the question, then smiled. A real smile, unguarded and warm. I love spaghetti. It's one of my top 5 foods. What are the other 4? Pizza, chocolate, fresh bread with butter, and really good tacos. What are yours? Pancakes, macaroni and cheese, chicken nuggets in dinosaur shapes, and ice cream. And spaghetti. That's 5. I have 5 too. Excellent choices. Want to see what I brought for sandcastles? Madeline opened her bag, revealing professional-grade sandcastle molds, tools, and what appeared to be a small spray bottle for water detail work. Emma's eyes went huge. That's so cool. Can we make a really big castle with towers and a moat? We can make the biggest castle this beach has ever seen, Madeline said seriously. But I'll need your help. I'm good at structure, but I'll need someone with creativity for the details. Think you can handle that? I can totally handle that. They walked to the beach together, Emma between them, already chattering about her vision for the castle. Ryan caught Madeline's eye over Emma's head, and she smiled, tentative, hopeful, and completely genuine. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could build something here, the three of them. Maybe the risk was worth it. The sand was perfect for building, slightly damp from the morning tide. They found a good spot and got to work. Madeline revealed herself to be an absolute perfectionist about sandcastle architecture, explaining load-bearing principles and structural integrity with the same intensity she brought to lifeguard training. Emma soaked it up, asking questions, offering wild decorative ideas that Madeline seriously considered before implementing. Ryan mostly watched, handing over tools when requested, applying sunscreen when Emma inevitably forgot, and feeling something warm and unexpected growing in his chest. Your dad tells me you're really good at math, Madeline said, while carefully smoothing a tower wall. I'm the best in my class, Emma said matter-of-factly. We're doing multiplication now. It's easy. I was terrible at math. I could barely handle fractions. Really? But you're a grown-up. Being a grown-up doesn't mean you're automatically good at everything. It just means you've been practicing being human for longer. Emma giggled. That's silly. Maybe. But it's true. Your dad, for example, he's really good at staying calm when things go wrong. I'm not great at that. I get anxious and want to control everything. Like how? Like right now, I'm worried this tower isn't straight enough. Even though it's just a sandcastle and it's supposed to be fun, I'm stressed about making it perfect. Emma studied the tower critically. It looks perfect to me. Yeah? Yeah. And even if it wasn't, we could just fix it. That's what Daddy says. Mistakes are just chances to try again. Madeline looked up at Ryan, something soft in her expression. Your daddy's a smart man. They worked for another hour, building an elaborate castle complete with towers, walls, a moat, and decorative shells Emma arranged in careful patterns. Other beachgoers stopped to admire it. A few kids asked if they could help. Emma, with Madeline's encouragement, directed them like a tiny foreman. When the castle was finished, they sat back to admire their work. Emma was covered in sand, beaming with pride. Madeline had sand in her hair and all over her hands, looking more relaxed than Ryan had ever seen her. Best castle ever, Emma declared. Agreed, Madeline said. We make a good team. Emma looked up at her seriously. Are you going to keep being Daddy's girlfriend? The question hung in the air, direct and uncompromising the way only children could be. Madeline didn't deflect or dodge. I'd like to if that's okay with you, and if your dad wants me to. I want you to, Ryan said quietly. Then yes, Madeline told Emma. I'm going to keep being his girlfriend. Emma considered this. Okay, but you have to promise to be nice to him, and to me, and to come build sandcastles with us sometimes. I promise all of those things. And you have to try macaroni and cheese. I love macaroni and cheese. The good kind? Not the fancy kind with weird cheese, the kind from the box. Madeline held out her hand solemnly. I promise to eat boxed macaroni and cheese with you. Emma shook her hand, equally solemn. Okay, you can stay. Ryan felt something break open in his chest. Relief, joy, terror, all mixed together. They'd cleared the first hurdle. Emma had accepted Madeline, and Madeline had shown up exactly as herself. Imperfect, honest, trying her best. They spent the rest of the afternoon in the water, teaching Emma to body surf small waves, building a second smaller castle, eating sandwiches that got sand in them no matter how careful they were. It felt normal. It felt right. It felt like the beginning of something real. As the sun started to sink, Emma fell asleep on the beach towel, exhausted from the day. Ryan covered her with a light blanket and sat beside Madeline, their shoulders touching. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For being honest with her, for taking her seriously, for not trying to be something you're not. She's a great kid, Ryan. You've done an incredible job with her. I'm terrified every single day that I'm screwing it up." "That's how you know you're doing it right." Madeline leaned her head on his shoulder. People who are certain they're doing everything perfectly are usually the ones who aren't. They sat like that as the beach emptied around them, Emma sleeping peacefully nearby, the ocean keeping its eternal rhythm. Ryan thought about Jennifer Morrison's judgment, about the gossip at work, about all the people who would have opinions about this unconventional family they were building. And he decided he didn't care. This was real. This was worth fighting for. This was worth the risk. The transition to North County happened faster than Ryan expected. 2 weeks compressed into a blur of training his replacement, memorizing new procedures, and adjusting to a beach that felt wrong in subtle ways. Different currents, different crowds, different rhythms. The drive was better, cutting his commute by 15 minutes and putting him closer to Emma's school, but everything else felt like wearing shoes that almost fit but rubbed in unexpected places. His new supervisor was a man named Derek Chen, mid-40s, former Navy rescue swimmer who ran his station with military efficiency. He was fair, competent, and utterly uninterested in Ryan's personal life, which should have been a relief, but somehow felt isolating instead. At the old station, despite the gossip, Ryan had known everyone. Here, he was starting over. Madeline called him every night after Emma went to bed. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes just 15 minutes before exhaustion pulled them under. She told him about her day, about the politics at the main station, about Marcus accidentally letting a rescue buoy drift away and having to swim after it while tourists filmed. Ryan told her about North County's peculiarities, about Derek's obsession with perfect equipment logs, about missing Tower 7 more than he'd expected. "Give it time," Madeline said during one of these calls, her voice soft through the phone. "New places always feel wrong at first. Your body has to learn new patterns." "How long did it take you? After Athens, when you moved here?" A pause. "Honestly? About 2 years before I stopped waking up angry that I was here instead of training, but that was different. I was running from something. You're running towards something." "Am I? Aren't you?" Ryan was lying in bed, the apartment dark except for the streetlight filtering through the blinds. "Yeah, I am. It's just harder than I thought it would be." The good things usually are. They'd been seeing each other for 3 weeks now, stealing time between shifts in Emma's schedule. Madeline came to dinner twice, bringing flowers for Emma that made his daughter glow with pleasure. They went to the aquarium Emma had been excited about, the three of them wandering through blue-lit tunnels while fish swam overhead. Madeline knew obscure facts about marine life that impressed Emma and made Ryan smile. She fit into their life with surprising ease, careful never to overstep, always asking Ryan before making plans that involved his daughter. But they hadn't been alone together, really alone, since that first night at her bungalow. The timing never worked. Emma's needs, work schedules, exhaustion. Ryan wanted more, wanted the space to explore this thing between them without the constant awareness of responsibility, but guilt ate at him every time he considered arranging a night away. "You're overthinking again," Madeline said, somehow reading his silence. "I can hear it from here." "How do you know I'm overthinking and not just tired?" "Because tired Ryan gets quiet in a different way. Overthinking Ryan has this specific quality of silence that sounds like gears grinding." "That's disturbingly accurate." "I'm observant. It's my job." A pause. "What's bothering you?" Ryan considered deflecting but forced himself toward honesty. "I want more time with you, real time, not stolen hours between everything else. But I feel selfish even thinking that." "Why selfish?" "Because Emma comes first, always, and arranging time away from her feels like choosing something for myself over her needs." "Does Emma need you every single minute of every day, or have you convinced yourself she does because it's easier than admitting you deserve things too?" The question hit harder than Ryan expected. He sat up in bed, running a hand through his hair. "That's not fair." "Maybe not. But is it true?" "I I don't know. Maybe. She's only 7, Madeline. She lost her mother. I'm all she has. And she's lucky to have you. But Ryan, she also has Mrs. Chen, who she adores. She has school friends, teachers who care about her. She has a support system. Taking one night for yourself doesn't make you a bad father. It makes you human. Ryan was quiet, letting the words sink in. Somewhere down the hall, a neighbor's dog barked. A car alarm went off and was quickly silenced. I'll think about it, he said finally. That's all I'm asking. They talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important. A funny thing Emma had said, Madeline's ongoing war with the station's broken coffee maker, plans for the weekend. When they hung up, Ryan lay in the dark for a long time, thinking about sacrifice and selfishness and the blurry line between the two. The next morning, he dropped Emma at school and drove to North County for his shift. The beach was already filling up despite the early hour, spring break crowds, families claiming prime spots, teenagers with speakers blasting music that made Ryan feel approximately 90 years old. He was settling into Tower 3, his new station, when Derek's voice crackled over the radio. All units, we've got reports of a rip current developing off Sector 7. High surf advisory in effect through 1800 hours. Keep eyes sharp. Ryan acknowledged and scanned his section. The ocean looked deceptively calm, but he could see the telltale signs, the gap in the breaking waves, the darker water, the slight chop that indicated strong current beneath the surface. He grabbed the warning flags and headed down to post them, already calculating angles and entry points in case someone got caught. The morning passed in elevated tension. Ryan pulled 3 people out of the rip before it got serious, exhaustion starting to set in by noon. His replacement arrived for lunch break, and Ryan headed to the station house for food and water. His phone showed 2 missed calls from Emma's school. His heart stopped. He called back immediately. The school secretary answered on the first ring. Mr. Cole, we've been trying to reach you. Emma had an incident on the playground. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. What kind of incident? Is she hurt? She's okay, just shaken up. There was some pushing between students, and Emma fell. She scraped her knee and hit her head, though there's no sign of concussion. We'd like you to come pick her up if possible. I'm on my way. Ryan found Derek, explained the situation, and was in his truck within 5 minutes. The drive to Emma's school took 20 minutes that felt like hours. His mind conjured worst-case scenarios, serious injury the school was downplaying, trauma that would set her back, bullying that had escalated to violence. Emma was in the nurse's office when he arrived, sitting on the examination table with a bandage on her knee and red-rimmed eyes that said she'd been crying but had stopped. She launched herself at him the moment he entered. "Daddy!" Ryan caught her, doing a quick visual assessment, bandaged knee, small bump on her forehead, already developing into a bruise, but alert, responsive. Emma. "Hey, troublemaker. Heard you had some excitement." Madison pushed me. Emma's voice was small, hurt. She said I was being a show-off about my math homework and pushed me off the monkey bars. The nurse, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, handed Ryan an incident report. "The other student has been disciplined. We take physical altercations very seriously. Emma's injuries are minor, but we wanted you to monitor her for the next 24 hours just in case. Standard head injury protocol." Ryan read through the report, rage simmering under his concern. Some kid had pushed his daughter hard enough to knock her off playground equipment. He wanted to find this Madison and her parents and have some very direct conversations about appropriate behavior. Instead, he thanked the nurse, signed the paperwork, and carried Emma to the truck. "Does it hurt?" he asked once they were on the road. "My knee does. My head just feels weird." "Weird how?" "Like there's a bump that shouldn't be there." "That's exactly what it is. You're very perceptive." Ryan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Em, what happened?" "The whole story." Emma was quiet for a moment, picking at the edge of her bandage. "We were doing math problems at recess. Mrs. Henderson lets us if we want to, and I finished mine really fast and was helping some other kids, and Madison said I was showing off and making everyone else look dumb. I said I wasn't, I was just helping, and she got mad and pushed me when I was climbing." "Did you tell a teacher?" "I told the playground monitor. That's when they called you." Ryan pulled into their apartment complex and parked. He came around to help Emma out, noting she was favoring her injured knee. "Okay." Here's what's going to happen. We're going inside. I'm going to get you some ice for your head and your knee, and we're going to have a very serious talk about what happened today. Once inside, Ryan got Emma settled on the couch with ice packs and juice. He called work to explain he'd need the rest of the day off. Family emergency, Derek said it was fine, no problem. Then he called Mrs. Chen to let her know what happened in case Emma mentioned it later. Finally, he sat down with his daughter and had the hardest conversation a parent could have, about meanness, about jealousy, about how sometimes people lashed out when they felt small, and how that wasn't Emma's fault but was still something she'd have to navigate. Should I stop helping people with math? Emma asked, her face serious. Absolutely not. You're good at math, and you're generous with that knowledge. Don't make yourself smaller because someone else feels threatened by your light, but maybe be aware that not everyone will appreciate it, and that's their problem, not yours. That doesn't seem fair. It's not. A lot of life isn't fair, but we still have to figure out how to move through it with kindness. Emma thought about this while sipping her juice. Can Madeline come over? I want to show her my battle wound. Ryan smiled despite everything. Your battle wound? That's what we're calling it? It sounds cooler than Madison pushed me and I fell. Fair point. Let me text her. Madeline responded within minutes, saying she'd come right after her shift ended at 6. Ryan spent the afternoon with Emma, monitoring her for any signs of concussion, making her favorite comfort food, and letting her watch more television than he normally allowed. At 6:15, Madeline knocked on the door. She'd clearly come straight from work, still in her uniform shorts and polo shirt, hair wind-tangled from the beach. Her face showed concern the moment she saw Emma on the couch. I heard there was a warrior who needed visiting, she said, kneeling beside the couch. Can I see the battle wound? Emma showed her the bandaged knee with pride. I fell off the much. Very brave. And this? Madeline gently touched near the bruise on Emma's forehead. That's from hitting the ground. The nurse said I might get a black eye, but I don't think I will. I've had a few of those. They make you look tough. Madeline glanced up at Ryan, questions in her eyes. He gave a small nod. Later, they ordered pizza for dinner, and Madeline stayed to help with Emma's bedtime routine. She was careful not to overstep, following Ryan's lead, but her presence was comforting in a way Ryan hadn't expected. Having another adult there, someone who cared about Emma's well-being, someone to share the burden of worry with, it eased something tight in his chest. After Emma was asleep, Ryan and Madeline sat in the small living room with beer. Neither of them was really drinking. What really happened? Madeline asked. Ryan told her everything. The call from school, Emma's explanation, his rage at a 7-year-old he'd never met. Madeline listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Kids can be cruel, she said finally. I was bullied for being tall, for being too focused on swimming, for not caring about the things other girls cared about. It's awful and it's formative, and Emma will survive it. I know. Doesn't make it easier to watch. No, it doesn't. Madeline set down her beer. But Ryan, she's going to face this stuff whether you're hovering or not. You can't protect her from everything. I can try. You can. But at what cost? To her independence? To your sanity? To us? The last word hung there, heavy with implication. Ryan looked at Madeline, really looked at her. This woman who'd become essential in just a few weeks, who cared about his daughter, who was trying to build something real with him despite the complications. I'm scared, he admitted, of letting go, of something happening when I'm not there, of failing her the way I failed Sarah. You didn't fail Sarah. She had a medical condition nobody knew about. I should have known. Should have seen signs, should have... Stop. Madeline moved closer, taking his hands. You can't control everything. You can't prevent every bad thing from happening. All you can do is love Emma, teach her how to handle adversity, and trust that you've given her the tools she needs. And maybe, let yourself have something for you, not instead of being her father, in addition to it. Ryan felt something crack inside him, the armor he'd built, the control he'd maintained, the walls that kept him functioning but alone. I don't know how. We'll figure it out together. They sat like that, hands linked, until the moment shifted into something different. Madeline leaned in and kissed him, soft at first, then deeper. Ryan responded, pulling her closer, letting himself want this, want her, without guilt for the first time. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Madeline rested her forehead against his. "I should go," she whispered. "Emma might wake up. Stay, please. Not like that. Just stay. Sleep on the couch or in my bed. I'll take the couch. I don't want to be alone tonight." Madeline pulled back to search his face. "Okay, I'll stay." She ended up in Ryan's bed while he took the couch, both of them fully clothed, separated by walls and propriety, but somehow more connected than they'd been. Ryan lay in the dark listening to the apartment settle around him and felt something like peace for the first time in years. The next 2 weeks passed in relative calm. Emma went back to school with instructions to avoid Madison, though she reported they'd been assigned to work together on a project and had actually become tentative friends. Ryan didn't quite trust it, but let Emma navigate it herself. His shifts at North County started to feel more natural. He learned the rhythms, made tentative friendships with other guards, stopped comparing everything to the old station. Derek even complimented him on a difficult rescue, which felt like winning an Olympic medal given Derek's usual stoicism. Madeline integrated further into their life. She came to Emma's soccer game and cheered embarrassingly loud. She taught Emma to make homemade pizza, the kitchen ending up covered in flour, and both of them laughing. She and Ryan stole moments when they could. Coffee before shifts, texts throughout the day, late-night phone calls after Emma slept. But they still hadn't had real time alone, and the tension was building. Ryan found himself watching Madeline in ways that made him feel like a teenager. The way she moved, the curve of her neck, the rare moments when she let her guard down completely. He wanted more. Wanted time to explore this thing between them without interruption, without the constant awareness of Emma in the next room. He was thinking about this, about logistics and possibilities, when the call came through. It was a Saturday evening, nearly 7. Ryan was at the beach with Emma and Madeline, the three of them watching the sunset and debating ice cream flavors. His phone rang, Derek's number. "Cole, I know you're off duty, but we've got a situation. Surfer went out past the break an hour ago. Hasn't come back. Friend says he was heading toward the rocks at South Point. Coast Guard is 20 minutes out, but conditions are deteriorating fast. I need every experienced swimmer I can get." Ryan looked at Emma, at Madeline, calculation happening instantly. "I'm 15 minutes away, I'll be there." "Appreciate it." Ryan hung up and turned to Madeline. "Emergency. Surfer missing near South Point. Can you—" "I'll take Emma home. Stay with her until you're back. Go." Emma's face crumpled. "But Daddy, it's ice cream night." Ryan knelt beside her, hands on her small shoulders. "I know, baby. And we'll do ice cream tomorrow, I promise. But right now someone needs help, and I have to go help them. Madeline's going to stay with you, okay? Will you be safe?" The question pierced him. "I'm always safe. That's what I do." He kissed her forehead, grabbed his gear from the truck, and was racing toward North County within minutes. The sun was dropping fast, painting the sky in violent oranges and purples that would be beautiful if they didn't signal incoming darkness. Searching for someone in the dark ocean was exponentially harder than daylight rescue. He arrived at the station to organize chaos. Derek was coordinating, 3 guards were suiting up, the rescue boat was already launching. Ryan geared up in record time, grabbing a wetsuit and fins. "What do we know?" he asked Derek. Male, mid-20s, experienced surfer went out solo despite high surf warning. Friend says he was talking about riding the break near the rocks. Idiot move, but typical. Last seen about 6:45 heading south, no visual since. Ryan looked at the ocean. The swells were massive, 6 to 8 feet, the kind of surf that drew thrill seekers and killed the unwary. Near the rocks, the current would be unpredictable, the undertow vicious. "I'll take the shore approach," Ryan said. "If he's hurt and caught in the rocks, the boat won't be able to get close enough." Derek nodded. "Take Marcus with you. Everyone else, spread pattern search offshore. Move." Ryan and Marcus jogged down the beach toward South Point, a rocky outcropping that created turbulent water conditions even on calm days. In this surf, it would be a meat grinder. "This is insane," Marcus panted as they ran. "Who surfs here in these conditions?" Someone with more confidence than sense. Ryan was scanning the water, looking for any sign. A board, a flash of wetsuit, movement that didn't match the wave pattern. They reached the rocks as the last light faded. Ryan pulled on his fins and headed into the water without hesitation. The ocean was cold, angry, each wave a physical assault. He duck-dove under the first big set, came up searching. "There!" Marcus shouted from the shore, pointing. "I saw something near the far rocks." Ryan swam hard toward the indicated area, fighting current and surge. The water was violent here, each wave slamming him into rocks if he wasn't careful. He dove deep to avoid the worst of it, surfacing in the calmer eddy behind the main rock formation. And there he was, the surfer, wedged in rocks, barely conscious, his board leash tangled in kelp and rock. Blood streamed from a gash on his head, already diluted by seawater. "Hey!" Ryan shouted over the roar of surf. "Can you hear me?" The surfer's eyes flickered. "Leg. Stuck." Ryan got closer, assessing fast. The guy's leg was caught between two rocks. The tide coming in would submerge him completely within minutes. They had to move now. "I'm going to get you out. This is going to hurt. You with me?" A weak nod. Ryan braced himself against the rocks and pulled. The surfer screamed. The leg didn't budge. Ryan keyed his radio. "I've got him, South Point Rocks, but he's trapped. I need help getting him out before the tide covers him." Derek's voice crackled back. "Boat can't get close enough in these swells. Coast Guard is 5 minutes out." They didn't have 5 minutes. Ryan could see the water rising, could feel the increasing force of each wave. He looked at the surfer's trapped leg, at the angle of the rocks, and made a decision. "Hold on to me," he told the surfer. "When I say push, you push with everything you have. Understand?" Another nod, weaker this time. Ryan positioned himself, found leverage, and pulled with everything he had. At the same moment, Madeline's voice cut through his radio. "Ryan, I'm here. Tell me where you need me." He looked up, and there she was, 50 feet away in the water, having somehow left Emma, probably with Mrs. Chen, and raced to help. Relief and fear hit him simultaneously. "Get behind him. Support his upper body when I get the leg free. If we both go under, he needs to stay conscious." Madeline swam to position. "Ready. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Ryan pulled, the surfer pushed, and something gave. The leg came free with a sickening sound, and both Ryan and the surfer went underwater. Ryan came up gasping, got the surfer's head above water. Madeline was there instantly, supporting the injured man's weight. But then Ryan saw it. Madeline's face contorting in pain, her left leg not kicking right. The knee. The old injury, the cold water and extreme exertion had triggered something. "Your knee," Ryan said. "I'm fine. Get him to shore." "You're not fine. You're favoring it completely." A wave hit them broadside. Ryan managed to keep the surfer's head up, but Madeline went under. She surfaced coughing, her face showing the pain she was trying to hide. They were 30 feet from shore. 30 feet that might as well have been a mile with an unconscious man and Madeline's compromised knee. The Coast Guard lights were visible now, but they'd never make it in time through these rocks. Ryan made the calculation in a heartbeat. He got between Madeline and the surfer, looped one arm around each, and started swimming with just his legs and one arm. It was brutally inefficient, exhausting, probably impossible. He did it anyway. Marcus waded in to help, taking the surfer's weight. Another guard Ryan didn't recognize took Madeline. They stumbled onto the beach as the Coast Guard boat arrived, paramedics rushing forward. Ryan collapsed on the sand, lungs screaming, every muscle shaking with exhaustion. Beside him, Madeline was breathing hard, her face twisted in pain she could no longer hide. "Your knee," he said again when he could speak, "is completely blown. I felt something tear when that wave hit." She laughed, bitter and broken. 12 years of protecting it, and I destroy it trying to be a hero. You saved his life. We saved his life. And I can barely walk. Great trade. The paramedics were working on the surfer. He was breathing, conscious, would probably be okay. Another paramedic approached Madeline, saw her knee already swelling, and started first aid. Ryan watched, feeling something shift inside him. Madeline had risked everything to help him, to save a stranger, despite knowing it could destroy what remained of her athletic ability. She'd chosen immediate need over long-term consequence. She'd shown up. Derek appeared, looking grim. "Hell of a rescue, both of you. Surfer's going to make it thanks to you." "Madeline, how bad is it?" "Bad enough. I'll need to file an injury report. Monday's soon enough. Go get that looked at properly. Cole, you good to drive? Ryan nodded, still watching Madeline. The paramedic was wrapping her knee, explaining she needed to see an orthopedic surgeon as soon as possible, that the damage could be severe. She'd done this for him. She'd blown out her knee for a stranger because Ryan needed help, and she'd shown up without question. The realization hit him like the waves had. Madeline wasn't holding back anymore. She was all in, risking everything, showing him what commitment looked like. And here he was, still hedging his bets, still keeping parts of himself protected, still afraid to fully surrender to this thing between them. He helped her to his truck, drove her to the emergency room, called Mrs. Chen to check on Emma. His daughter was fine, already in pajamas, asking if Daddy had saved someone. Mrs. Chen said she could stay the night if needed. At the hospital, they waited in uncomfortable plastic chairs while Madeline's knee was x-rayed, MRI'd, examined by a doctor who looked far too young to be delivering bad news. It's a complete ACL tear, the doctor said, showing them images Ryan didn't fully understand. Surgery required, probably 6 months recovery minimum. Given the previous injuries and repairs, this is going to be complex. I'm recommending you to Dr. Sullivan. She's the best orthopedic surgeon in the county for this kind of reconstruction. Madeline took the news with stone-faced acceptance, but Ryan saw her hands shaking as she took the referral papers. They left the hospital at midnight, Madeline on crutches, a temporary brace stabilizing her knee. Ryan helped her into the truck, and they sat in the parking lot in silence. "I'm sorry," Ryan said finally. "For what?" "For your knee. For putting you in a position where you felt like you had to." "Stop." Madeline turned to look at him, her eyes fierce despite the pain. "I made a choice. I saw you needed help. I knew what it might cost, and I chose anyway. Don't you dare apologize for that." "But your knee was already damaged, was already broken. This just made it official." She looked away, out at the dark parking lot. "And honestly, part of me is relieved. I've been protecting that knee for 12 years, letting it dictate my life, my choices, my fear. Tonight I just let go. Used it the way it was meant to be used. And yeah, it's destroyed now, but I helped save someone. That means something." Ryan reached for her hand. "It means everything. I'm going to need surgery. I'm going to be useless for months. I won't be able to work, won't be able to help with Emma, won't be anything but a burden." "You could never be a burden. Never." Madeline's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back. "I'm scared, Ryan. I've built my whole identity around being strong, being capable, being the one who saves people. What am I without that?" "You're Madeline. The woman who challenges me to be better. The woman who showed up for a stranger despite the cost. The woman Emma adores. The woman I'm falling in love with." The words came out before he could stop them, raw and true. "That's who you are. Not your career, not your athletic ability, not your perfect record. You." The tears spilled over. Madeline covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. Ryan pulled her as close as the truck's center console allowed, letting her cry against his shoulder, feeling his own eyes burn. They sat like that until the tears subsided. Madeline pulled back, wiping her face with the heel of her hand. "You said you're falling in love with me." "Yeah, I did." "That's terrible timing." "Probably." "I'm falling in love with you too. Have been since you beat me in that race and looked at me like you actually saw me." Ryan kissed her then, gentle and careful of her injuries, tasting salt from her tears. When they broke apart, something had fundamentally shifted between them. The last walls had come down. They were in this completely, irrevocably, no more holding back. "Take me home," Madeline said. "To your home. I don't want to be alone tonight." Ryan drove them back to his apartment, helped Madeline inside on her crutches. Emma was asleep at Mrs. Chen's, and the apartment felt different with just the two of them. Intimate, charged with possibility. He helped Madeline to his bed, got her pain medication and water, propped her leg on pillows. She looked vulnerable in a way he'd never seen, stripped of her usual armor by pain and exhaustion. "Stay with me," she said. "Don't go to the couch." Ryan lay down beside her, careful not to jostle her leg. Madeline curled into him as much as she could, her head on his chest. "We're a mess," she murmured. "The best kind." "That's what you said before." "Still true." She fell asleep like that, and Ryan lay awake listening to her breathe, feeling the weight of her trust in him, understanding that everything had changed. Tomorrow they'd deal with surgery schedules and work arrangements and explaining to Emma why Madeline was hurt. Tomorrow they'd face the reality of recovery and rehabilitation and the long road ahead. But tonight, right now, they had this. Two broken people choosing each other, choosing to build something from the wreckage of their pasts, choosing love over fear. Ryan closed his eyes and let himself believe it was possible. Morning came too early, sunlight cutting through the blinds, with aggressive cheerfulness that felt like mockery. Ryan woke to find Madeline already awake beside him, staring at the ceiling with an expression he recognized, the look of someone cataloging everything that hurt, everything that had changed, everything they'd lost. "How's the pain?" he asked quietly. "Manageable. The medication helps." She turned her head to look at him. "I need to call Derek, file the official injury report, start the medical leave process." "That can wait a few hours." "No, it can't. The longer I wait, the more it looks like I'm avoiding responsibility. I need to do this right." Ryan understood what she wasn't saying, that her career, her reputation, everything she'd built here was suddenly fragile. One wrong move in the reporting process could damage her standing, could make people question her judgment in entering the water when she wasn't on duty, could turn a heroic rescue into a liability issue. "Okay, but let me make you breakfast first. You need to eat with those pain meds. He extracted himself carefully from the bed and headed to the kitchen. Emma would be awake soon at Mrs. Chen's, probably confused about why she'd spent the night there, why Daddy hadn't come to get her. He'd need to pick her up, explain about Madeline's injury, navigate his daughter's questions while managing his own worry. Ryan was scrambling eggs when his phone rang. Derek's number. "Colt, just got word from the Coast Guard. The surfer's stable, going to make a full recovery. They're calling it one of the best beach rescues they've seen in years. You and Shaw are going to get commendations." "That's good news about the surfer, but Derek, about Madeline." "I know. She already called me an hour ago, filed the injury report, submitted her medical leave paperwork. She's thorough, I'll give her that." Derek paused. "How bad is it really?" "Complete ACL tear. Surgery required, 6 months minimum recovery." "Damn, that's her career probably. Can't supervise from a desk forever, and she won't be able to pass the physical recertification with that kind of damage." Derek's voice was matter-of-fact, but Ryan heard the sympathy underneath. "She's a good supervisor. We'll miss her." The words hit Ryan hard. The casual assumption that Madeline's career was over, that this injury was a death sentence for everything she'd built. He wanted to argue, to insist she'd recover fully, but the doctor's prognosis had been clear. Even with perfect surgery and rehabilitation, Madeline's knee would never be what it was. "She's stronger than people think," Ryan said instead. "Never doubted that. Listen, take today off if you need it. I can cover your shift. Appreciate it, but I'll be in this afternoon. Emma needs some normalcy, and sitting around worrying won't help anyone." He hung up and finished making breakfast, carrying a plate to Madeline. She was on her phone, typing with fierce concentration. "Email to HR," she explained without looking up. "Confirming my medical leave, requesting information about long-term disability options, being proactive about my future." She hit send with more force than necessary. "There. Done. Now they can't say I didn't handle this professionally. Madeline, I know what you're going to say, that I should rest, that I should focus on recovery, that work can wait. But Ryan, work is all I have, or had. I don't know anymore." She set the phone down, and her hands were shaking. "I'm 41 years old. I've been an athlete my entire life. Then I was a former athlete trying to stay connected to athletics through lifeguarding, and now I'm... What? A woman with a destroyed knee, no clear career path, no identity beyond the things I can't do anymore?" Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, taking her hands. "You're the woman I love. The woman Emma loves. The woman who saved a stranger's life last night. That's not nothing. It feels like nothing this morning. I know, but feelings aren't facts." Madeline laughed, bitter and sharp. "Did you get that from a therapy session? Because it sounds like something a therapist would say." "Grief counselor, actually, after Sarah died. I spent 6 months learning to separate feelings from facts because my feelings were telling me I was a terrible father who'd failed his wife and was going to fail his daughter. The facts were different. What were the facts? That I was doing my best, that Sarah's death wasn't preventable, that Emma was healthy and loved and would be okay because I was committed to making sure she was okay. The feelings took longer to catch up, but the facts kept me moving forward. Madeline was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. What are the facts about me then? Facts. You're injured, but not broken. Your career might change, but isn't over. You have people who care about you and want to help. You made a choice last night that saved a life, and that matters regardless of the cost. You're not alone anymore. Those last two feel more like feelings than facts. Then we'll work on turning them into facts. He kissed her forehead and went to pick up Emma, leaving Madeline with breakfast and instructions to rest. Mrs. Chen opened the door looking tired but cheerful, Emma already dressed and bouncing with questions. Is Madeline okay? Mrs. Chen said she got hurt helping someone. Did you save someone? Can I see Madeline? Does her leg hurt really bad? Ryan knelt to Emma's level. Slow down, troublemaker. One question at a time. Yes, Madeline got hurt. Yes, we saved someone. Yes, you can see her. And yes, her leg hurts pretty bad, which means she's going to need help for a while. What kind of help? She can't walk very well, so she'll need crutches. She's going to have surgery in a few weeks. And she's going to need people to be patient with her while she heals. Emma's face grew serious. Can she still build sandcastles? Maybe not for a while, but she can definitely supervise sandcastle building and give very important advice. That's almost as good. Emma grabbed her backpack. Can we bring her flowers? Mrs. Chen says flowers make people feel better when they're hurt. They stopped at a grocery store, and Emma carefully selected a bouquet, mostly daisies with some carnations, bright and cheerful in a way that felt defiant against the morning's heaviness. Back at the apartment, Emma burst through the door with the energy of someone who'd been holding still too long. Madeline, I brought you flowers because you're hurt and flowers help. Madeline was still in bed, looking exhausted but managing a smile. Those are beautiful. Thank you, Emma. Emma climbed carefully onto the bed, examining Madeline's braced knee with intense curiosity. Does it hurt all the time, or just when you move it? Mostly when I move it. Right now it just feels stiff and weird. I broke my arm once when I was 5. Well, I fractured it. Daddy said that's like a crack instead of a full break. It hurt really bad at first, but then it just felt weird too. You're very brave to have handled a broken arm at 5. Daddy says being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do stuff even when you are scared. Were you scared last night? Madeline glanced at Ryan, something vulnerable in her expression. Yes, I was very scared, but your dad needed help, and the person in the water needed help, so I did it anyway. That's being brave, Emma confirmed with the absolute certainty of a 7-year-old. You're very brave. Can you still come to my soccer game next Saturday? I'll be there. Might be on crutches, but I'll be there. Emma beamed and launched into a detailed explanation of her soccer team's strategy, which seemed to involve a lot of running and very little actual strategy. Ryan made lunch while listening to Emma chatter, feeling the strange normality of the moment, his daughter talking, the woman he loved responding, the ordinary domestic scene that felt extraordinary given everything that had happened. After lunch, Ryan had to leave for his shift at North County. He felt guilty about it, about leaving Madeline alone, but she insisted she was fine and needed some space to process everything anyway. Emma stayed with Mrs. Chen again, and Ryan drove to work with his mind split between the beach and home. The shift was busy, spring break crowds, lots of tourists who didn't understand riptides, 3 minor rescues before 5 o'clock. But word had spread about the previous night's rescue, and Ryan found himself getting looks from other guards, comments about how intense it must have been, questions about Madeline's condition. Marcus cornered him during a break. Dude, is it true Shaw completely destroyed her knee? Like career-ending destroyed? That's not really my information to share. Come on, everyone's talking about it. The Ice Queen finally melted and it cost her everything. It's like tragic and romantic at the same time. Ryan's patience snapped. Stop calling her that. Her name is Madeline. She's a person, not a character in some story you're telling for entertainment. She got hurt helping save someone's life, and if you can't show some basic respect for that, we're done talking. Marcus held up his hands. Whoa, okay, my bad. I didn't mean anything by it. Yeah, you did. Everyone who calls her that means something by it. They mean she's cold, unapproachable, not fully human. And it's garbage. She spent years being professional and disciplined and good at her job. And instead of respecting that, people reduce her to a mean nickname. Ryan was aware he was probably overreacting, but couldn't stop. She deserves better than that. She's always deserved better. He walked away before Marcus could respond, needing distance before he said something he'd regret. His phone buzzed with a text from Madeline. Madeline. Just scheduled surgery April 15th. Dr. Sullivan had a cancellation. Means 2 weeks of pre-op physical therapy to prepare, then 6 months recovery after. Ryan. That's fast. You okay with that timeline? Madeline. No, but waiting longer won't make it easier. Might as well get it over with. Ryan. I'll be there. For the surgery, the recovery, all of it. Madeline. You have Emma. You have work. You don't need to put your life on hold for me. Ryan. Not putting my life on hold. This is my life now. You're part of it. Deal with it. A long pause, then, thank you. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of routine emergencies and paperwork. Ryan got home at 8, exhausted and windburned, to find Emma already in pajamas and Madeline on the couch, with her leg elevated, looking like she was barely holding it together. Rough day? He asked gently. I tried to shower, couldn't manage it on crutches, ended up sitting on the bathroom floor crying like an idiot because I can't do basic self-care anymore. Madeline's voice was flat, defeated. This is going to be my life for 6 months, being helpless, being dependent, being a burden on everyone around me. Ryan sat beside her, careful not to jostle her leg. You're not helpless. You're injured. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. Then let me help. Let me be here for this. Not because you're a burden, but because you matter to me and I want to help. I don't know how to let people help me. Then learn. We'll figure it out together. Over the next week, they established new patterns. Ryan moved Madeline into his apartment properly. Her clothes in his closet, her toiletries in the bathroom, her presence in every room. She protested that it was too fast, too much, too dependent, but he pointed out that her bungalow had stairs she couldn't navigate on crutches, and his apartment was ground floor and she needed help, and that was that. Emma adapted with the resilience children possessed, accepting Madeline's presence as natural and becoming fiercely protective of her injured knee. She made signs that said, "Be careful," and posted them around the apartment. She brought Madeline books from the library about people who overcame injuries. She sat with Madeline during pre-op physical therapy sessions, cheering encouragements that made the therapist smile. But the whispers continued. At work, Ryan heard fragments of conversation that stopped when he entered rooms. Someone mentioned Madeline's injury being convenient timing for getting out of the relationship, implying she'd faked the severity to avoid complications. Someone else suggested Ryan was only with her because he felt guilty about the rescue going bad. The rumors were stupid, baseless, and corrosive. Ryan tried to ignore them, but the accumulation wore on him. He was already stretched thin, working full-time, caring for Emma, helping Madeline with everything from showering to grocery shopping to managing her mounting medical bills. Adding gossip to the mix made everything feel impossible. 10 days before Madeline's surgery, everything came to a head. Ryan was at North County for an evening shift when Derek called him into the office. Standing there was a woman from county HR, not Brennan this time, but someone new, someone whose expression suggested this wasn't a friendly visit. Mr. Cole? I'm Patricia Mendez from HR. We need to discuss some concerns that have been raised about your relationship with Ms. Shaw. Ryan felt cold settle in his stomach. What kind of concerns? Several staff members have filed complaints suggesting that Ms. Shaw's injury occurred during an unauthorized rescue response while she was off duty and under the influence of emotional attachment to you. There are questions about whether her judgment was compromised, whether the rescue was necessary, whether county resources were appropriately utilized. The words hit like physical blows. That's insane. Madeline responded to an emergency. She saved someone's life. Her judgment was perfect. That may be true, but the appearance of impropriety is still problematic. We need to investigate whether Ms. Shaw's relationship with you created a situation where she took unnecessary risks that resulted in a career-ending injury and potential liability for the county. She took necessary risks. A man was drowning. She acted with the same courage and skill she's shown her entire career. The only reason anyone's questioning her judgment is because they can't stand that she's in a relationship with a subordinate. Mendez's expression didn't change. Be that as it may, we need to conduct a formal investigation. This means interviewing you, Ms. Shaw, other witnesses from that night. It also means that until the investigation concludes, we're recommending you maintain professional distance from Ms. Shaw to avoid further appearance of impropriety. Ryan laughed, sharp and bitter. Professional distance. She's living in my apartment. She's part of my daughter's life. She's having surgery in 10 days. You want me to abandon her because some people can't handle the idea that she's human? We're not asking you to abandon anyone. We're asking you to be mindful of how this looks and to cooperate with the investigation. And if I refuse, then we'll have to consider that lack of cooperation when making our determination about Ms. Shaw's employment status and potential liability. There it was, the threat. Cooperate or Madeline's career, her benefits, her entire professional future could be destroyed. Ryan wanted to rage, to throw Mendez out of the office, to tell the county exactly what they could do with their investigation. Instead, he forced himself to breathe, to think about Madeline, about what she needed. Fine, I'll cooperate. But this is harassment, and everyone knows it. Your cooperation is noted. We'll be in touch to schedule your interview. Mendez left, and Ryan stood in Derek's office trying to process what had just happened. Derek looked uncomfortable but sympathetic. For what it's worth, I think this is garbage. Shaw's one of the best supervisors I've worked with, and that rescue was textbook. But politics are politics, and someone's decided to make noise about this. Who filed the complaints? Can't tell you that. Privacy concerns. Ryan didn't need to be told. He could guess. People who'd never liked Madeline's discipline, who resented her authority, who saw an opportunity to take down someone they perceived as untouchable. The investigation wasn't about facts. It was about tearing down a woman who'd refused to be diminished. He finished his shift in a haze of rage and drove home trying to figure out how to tell Madeline. She was on the couch with Emma, reading one of the library books about overcoming adversity. She looked up when he entered, and her smile faded instantly. What happened? Emma, can you go brush your teeth? I need to talk to Madeline for a minute. Emma, perceptive as always, didn't argue. She kissed Madeline's cheek and headed to the bathroom. Ryan sat down and told Madeline everything, watched her face go from shock to hurt to fury to something that looked like resignation. They're going to use this to force me out, she said when he finished. The injury already makes me a liability. Now they have an excuse to question my judgment, my professionalism, everything. I'll be lucky if I keep my benefits, let alone my job. We'll fight this. Get a lawyer, file a countercomplaint, expose this for the harassment it is. With what money, Ryan? I can barely afford surgery with my insurance. Legal fees would bankrupt me. And even if we won, my reputation would be destroyed. Nobody wants a supervisor who sued the county. Madeline's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. This is over. My career is over. Everything I've built here is gone. Then we build something new. With what? I have no other skills. I'm a former athlete who became a lifeguard supervisor. That's it. That's my entire resume. What else can I even do? Ryan didn't have an answer. He pulled her close, feeling her shake with suppressed tears, and wished he could fix this the way he fixed everything else. With careful planning, with preparation, with sheer force of will. But some things couldn't be fixed. Some things just had to be survived. Emma appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, clutching the stuffed dolphin Ryan had bought her years ago. She looked between them with worried eyes. Is Madeline going to be okay? Madeline pulled herself together with visible effort, wiping her eyes and forcing a smile. I'm going to be fine, sweetheart. Just having a hard day. Because of your knee. Because of a lot of things. But I'll be okay. Emma climbed onto the couch carefully, nestling between them. When I have hard days, Daddy says we have to find 3 good things. Even small things count. Want to try? Madeline looked at Ryan, something breaking in her expression. Okay, 3 good things. You go first. My good thing is that you're here even though you're hurt, Emma said immediately. And my second good thing is that Daddy makes really good spaghetti. And my third good thing is that we're all together right now. Those are very good things, Madeline agreed. My turn. My first good thing is that the surgery is scheduled and I'm not in limbo anymore. My second good thing is this couch, which is surprisingly comfortable for someone with a destroyed knee. And my third good thing is you, Emma, both of you. Being here with you makes even terrible days bearable. They looked at Ryan expectantly. He thought about the investigation, about the gossip, about all the ways this could still fall apart. Then he looked at Emma and Madeline, at this makeshift family they'd created, and found his three things. My first good thing is that the surfer we saved is going to fully recover. My second good thing is that I have tomorrow off and can make pancakes in the morning. And my third good thing is that despite everything trying to tear us apart, we're still here, still choosing each other, still fighting. That's 4 things, Emma pointed out. The last one was long. Then I'm overachieving. They put Emma to bed together, Madeline reading the story while Ryan sat on the floor beside the bed. When Emma finally fell asleep, they retreated to the living room and the conversation they'd been avoiding. I need to tell HR about us publicly, Madeline said. Not just the disclosure paperwork, a full statement. Make it clear this isn't some secret affair, that we're in a committed relationship, that I have nothing to hide. That'll make the target on your back even bigger. The target's already there. Might as well own it. Madeline shifted her injured leg, wincing. I've spent my whole life trying to be perfect, trying to prove I belong, trying to earn respect through achievement. And you know what? It doesn't matter. People are going to judge me regardless. So I might as well be judged for telling the truth instead of hiding. Okay? Then we do it together. Public statement, joint front, complete transparency. Ryan, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You're facing this because of me, because you helped me save someone, because you're in a relationship with me. The least I can do is stand beside you when the consequences hit. This could affect your job too. Let it. I'm not hiding anymore either. They drafted the statement together that night. Simple, direct, honest. Confirmed their relationship, explained the timeline, made clear that Madeline's rescue response was heroic, not reckless, challenged anyone who suggested otherwise to examine their own biases. Ryan sent it to Derek. Madeline sent it to HR. Then they sent it to the local news outlets because if they were going public, they were going all the way. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By morning, the story had spread. Local hero supervisor injured in dramatic rescue. Relationship with subordinate revealed, county investigation called into question. Some coverage was sympathetic, praising Madeline's courage. Some was sensational, focusing on the forbidden romance angle. Some was openly hostile, suggesting she'd gotten what she deserved for breaking professional boundaries. Ryan's phone blew up with messages, some supportive, some cruel. Marcus texted a simple, "Holy hell, dude, you went nuclear." Sarah Chen sent encouragement. Tom Rodriguez called to say he had Ryan's back if things got ugly at work. And Jennifer Morrison, Ryan's old nemesis from Arizona, somehow got his number and left a voicemail dripping with false concern about whether this was really the right environment for Emma, whether Ryan was making good choices, whether he'd considered how this instability might affect his daughter. Ryan deleted the voicemail without responding, but it ate at him. Was he making good choices? Was he putting Emma at risk by refusing to hide, by choosing this public stand? Would his daughter pay the price for his principles? He was spiraling when Madeline found him in the kitchen at 6 a.m, unable to sleep, staring at his phone. "Stop reading the comments," she said. "Nothing good ever comes from reading the comments." Jennifer Morrison called, suggested I was creating an unstable environment for Emma. Jennifer Morrison is a bitter woman who never recovered from losing her best friend and needed someone to blame. Her opinion is worthless. But what if she's right? What if I'm being selfish? What if this blows up and Emma gets hurt? Madeline moved closer on her crutches, awkward but determined. Look at me. Emma is happy, healthy, loved, and learning that standing up for what you believe in matters more than what other people think. Those are lessons that will serve her for life. You're not being selfish, you're being brave. Don't let people like Jennifer make you doubt that. Ryan pulled her close, careful of her knee, and let himself believe it. They'd made their choice. They'd gone public. Now they had to live with the consequences and trust that honesty was worth the cost. The surgery was 5 days away when the county's investigation concluded. The findings were released in a terse statement. No evidence of impropriety. Rescue response was appropriate given the circumstances. Ms. Shaw's injury was unfortunate, but not the result of impaired judgment. No disciplinary action recommended. It was a complete exoneration. It was also completely hollow. The damage was done. Madeline's reputation questioned. Her injury public knowledge. Her future with the county uncertain, regardless of official findings. Derek called Ryan personally. Investigation's over. You're both cleared. But Cole, between you and me, Madeline should start looking at other options. Even with the cleared investigation, the politics here are poisoned. She's not going to get fair treatment going forward. She knows. We've been talking about it. Good. She deserves better than this place anyway. Derek paused. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Both of you. Takes guts to stand up like that. The surgery happened on a bright April morning, the kind of day that felt wrong for something so serious. Ryan drove Madeline to the hospital, Emma chattering nervously in the back seat about how Madeline would get a cool scar and how scars meant you'd survived something hard. In the pre-op room, Madeline looked small in the hospital gown, her usual armor stripped away. Emma hugged her carefully, making her promise to wake up after the surgery because Emma had made a card and wanted to give it to her. Ryan kissed her forehead and told her he loved her and tried not to think about all the things that could go wrong. I'm scared, Madeline admitted when Emma went to get water. I know, but you're brave, remember? Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Exactly, and I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. They wheeled her away and Ryan sat in the waiting room with Emma for 4 hours that felt like days. Emma did homework, colored pictures, asked every 15 minutes how much longer. Ryan drank terrible coffee and tried not to watch the clock. Finally, Dr. Sullivan emerged, still in surgical scrubs, looking satisfied. The surgery went well. We were able to repair the ACL and address some additional damage we found. Recovery will be long, but if she commits to physical therapy, she should regain most of her function. Most? 90%, maybe 95%. She'll never be Olympic level again, but she should be able to walk normally, swim recreationally, live a normal active life. Given the severity of the damage, that's an excellent outcome. Well, Ryan felt something loosen in his chest. When can we see her? She's in recovery now. Another hour, then you can visit briefly. Emma fell asleep waiting, and Ryan carried her to a more comfortable chair, feeling the weight of her trust in him. This was what mattered, being here, showing up, choosing connection even when it was hard. Madeline had shown him that. Emma reinforced it every day. His past didn't define him. His fear didn't control him. He was building something new, something real, something worth fighting for. When they finally got to see Madeline, she was groggy but smiling. Emma presented her card, a drawing of 3 people holding hands on a beach with the words, "We love you," in careful 7-year-old handwriting. That's us, Emma explained. You and Daddy and me, because we're family now. Madeline's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Ryan, questions in her expression. Was this okay? Was Emma speaking for herself, or had someone coached her? Was this real? Ryan smiled. Yeah, we're family now. And in that hospital room, with Emma chattering and Madeline crying and recovery stretching out ahead of them like an uncertain road, Ryan felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Complete, absolute certainty that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Recovery was brutal in ways the doctors hadn't quite prepared them for. The physical pain Madeline could handle, she'd spent a lifetime pushing through pain, understanding it as temporary, as something to be endured and overcome. But the mental weight of dependence, of watching Ryan juggle work and Emma and her needs, of feeling like a burden despite everyone's insistence she wasn't, that pain had no medication, no clear treatment plan. 3 weeks post-surgery, Madeline sat on the couch with her leg elevated, watching Ryan make dinner while Emma did homework at the kitchen table. This had become their routine, Ryan cooking, Emma working, Madeline observing from a distance that felt both necessary and isolating. She'd tried to help earlier in the week, hobbling around on crutches, attempting to chop vegetables, and had nearly fallen. Ryan had caught her, settled her back on the couch with forced patience, and she'd seen the exhaustion in his eyes, even as he smiled and said it was fine. Daddy, how do you spell perseverance? Emma asked, pencil poised over her spelling worksheet. Sound it out first. What do you hear? Perseverance. But that doesn't look right. Ryan spelled it out while stirring pasta sauce, and Madeline marveled at his ability to split attention across multiple demands without seeming overwhelmed. She'd always prided herself on focus, on singular dedication to whatever task was in front of her. Ryan operated differently, distributed awareness, moving between needs without apparent effort. "I got my job offer today," Madeline said quietly. She'd been holding the information for hours, unsure how to share it, what it meant. Ryan turned from the stove. "The aquarium position?" "Yeah, education coordinator. Teaching kids about marine life, running programs, developing curriculum. It's perfect on paper. Good salary, benefits, flexible hours. Everything I said I wanted when I started looking." But it's not lifeguarding. It's not the ocean. It's teaching about water instead of being in it, and I don't know if I can handle that distance. Emma looked up from her homework. "But you're really good at teaching. You taught me about all the fish at the aquarium, and you made it super interesting, better than the signs. That's different than doing it as a job, sweetheart." "Why?" "A job is just doing something you're good at and getting money for it. You're good at teaching and you like fish. Seems like a good job to me." The 7-year-old logic was irrefutable. Ryan smiled, catching Madeline's eye. "She's not wrong. I know, I've spent my entire adult life defining myself by physical achievement. Swimming faster, diving deeper, saving people from drowning. Teaching feels like admitting I can't do those things anymore." "Or it's admitting you can do different things now," Ryan said. "Evolution, not defeat." Madeline wanted to argue but couldn't find solid ground. The truth was she'd already made up her mind. She was going to take the job, start in June after physical therapy progressed enough for her to be mobile without crutches. The aquarium was excited to have her, practically glowing in the interview when she'd talked about competitive swimming and ocean safety. They saw her athletic background as an asset, not a limitation. It was only Madeline who saw it as failure. "I'm taking it," she said. "The job. I called them this afternoon and accepted." "That's great," Ryan said, and meant it. "When do you start?" "June 1st. Gives me 6 weeks to get stronger, to figure out how to exist in a professional environment on a bad knee." She paused. "And to find my own place. I can't keep living here indefinitely." The kitchen went very quiet. Emma stopped writing, looking between them with worried eyes. Ryan set down his spoon with careful precision. "Why would you find your own place?" "Because this was temporary. Because you have Emma and a life, and you don't need me taking up space in your home forever." "Who said it was temporary?" Ryan moved closer, crouching beside the couch so they were eye level. "Madeline, you live here. This is your home. Emma's right. We're family now. That's not temporary unless you want it to be." "But I never asked. We never discussed. I just sort of ended up here because of the surgery, and I assumed once I was better. You assumed wrong." Ryan's voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "I love you. Emma loves you. You belong here, not as a guest recovering from injury, but as part of this family. So unless you actively want to leave, please stop planning your exit." Madeline felt tears threatening and blinked them back furiously. She'd spent weeks convinced she was imposing, that Ryan's help came from obligation rather than desire, that eventually he'd realized taking on a woman with a destroyed knee and uncertain future was more trouble than it was worth. Hearing him state the opposite with such certainty cracked something open in her chest. "I don't want to leave," she admitted. "I just didn't want to assume I could stay." "Then stop assuming and start believing. You're stuck with us." Emma abandoned her homework and climbed onto the couch, carefully arranging herself against Madeline's side. "Yeah, you're stuck with us. We're like those barnacles you told me about. Once we attach, we don't let go." Despite everything, Madeline laughed. "That's actually a very accurate metaphor. I'm smart like that." They ate dinner together, pasta with meat sauce, Emma's perpetual favorite, and Madeline let herself sink into the moment. This was real. This was her life now. Not the life she'd planned, not the life she'd trained for, but a life that held love and purpose, and the kind of ordinary happiness she'd stopped believing she deserved. Later, after Emma was asleep and they were alone, Ryan brought it up again. They were in bed, Madeline's leg propped on pillows, the room dark except for streetlight filtering through curtains. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the future, About us. That sounds ominous. It's not. Or maybe it is. I'm not sure yet. He shifted to face her. Emma called us family in the hospital. She's talked about you like you're a permanent fixture in her life. And she's right. You are. But we haven't really discussed what that means long term. What do you want it to mean? Ryan was quiet for a moment, choosing words carefully. I want it to mean everything. I want you here permanently, not as my girlfriend living in my apartment, but as my partner building a life together. I want Emma to have the stability of knowing you're not going anywhere. I want to stop feeling like we're in transition and start feeling like we've arrived. That sounds like you're proposing something specific. Maybe I am. Not tonight. Tonight I'm just being honest about what I want. But Madeline, I'm all in. Have been since that first night at your bungalow. I'm not scared anymore of what this means or how it looks or whether I deserve it. I just want us. All of us. Together. Madeline's throat was tight. I want that too. More than I thought I could want anything after Athens. You and Emma, this life we're building, it's better than any medal, any race, any achievement I ever chased. Then we're agreed. This is permanent. We're family. We're family, Madeline echoed, and felt the truth of it settle into her bones. The weeks blurred together in a rhythm of physical therapy sessions, Emma's end-of-year school events, and Ryan's shifts at North County. Madeline's knees slowly improved. She graduated from crutches to a cane to careful walking, from walking to modified exercise. Her physical therapist was impressed by her dedication, but had to constantly remind her to ease up, that pushing too hard would set back recovery. You're treating this like Olympic training, the therapist said during one session. But this is healing, not performance. Different rules apply. I don't know how to do anything at less than maximum effort. Then learn, because maximum effort right now means re-injury. It was the hardest lesson Madeline had ever tried to master. Patience with her body, acceptance of limitations, understanding that some things couldn't be forced through sheer will. Ryan helped, gently pulling her back when she pushed too hard, reminding her that recovery was a marathon, not a sprint, using all the cliches that were annoying precisely because they were true. In late May, a month before Madeline's new job started, the county finally made their move. She received official notice that her position as supervisor was being eliminated due to budget restructuring. The timing was transparent. They'd waited until after the investigation cleared her, until after her medical leave was established, until they could claim fiscal necessity rather than retaliation. Derek called Ryan immediately. They're cleaning house. Shaw's position is gone, effective July 1st. They're offering her a buyout package. 6-month salary, continued benefits through the end of the year. It's actually generous, which makes me think they're scared of a lawsuit. Does Madeline know? She should have received the letter an hour ago. Ryan drove home early from his shift to find Madeline sitting at the kitchen table with the letter in front of her, her face unreadable. So that's it, she said without looking up. 15 years in beach safety, 5 years as a supervisor, and I'm being eliminated for budgetary reasons that have nothing to do with budget. What do you want to do? Fight it? Get a lawyer? And drag this out for months? Spend money I don't have on legal fees to win back a job at an organization that clearly doesn't want me? Madeline shook her head. No. I'm taking the buyout. Starting fresh. Moving forward instead of fighting battles in a war that's already over. You're sure? I'm exhausted, Ryan. Exhausted from fighting, from proving myself, from trying to earn respect from people who've already decided I'm not worth it. The aquarium wants me, genuinely wants me, not as a diversity hire or a PR move, but because they value what I bring. Why would I fight to stay somewhere I'm not valued when I can go somewhere I am? She was right, and Ryan knew it. Sometimes the brave choice wasn't fighting, it was walking away with dignity intact. Then we celebrate, he said. You're starting a new chapter. That deserves recognition, not mourning. They went to Emma's favorite restaurant that night, a cheerful family place with crayons and coloring sheets and waiters who sang obnoxiously for birthdays. Emma was thrilled by the unexpected dinner out. Madeline managed to smile through the attention, and Ryan felt the weight of Madeline's old career finally lifting. What are we celebrating? Emma asked, attacking her chicken fingers with enthusiasm. Madeline got a new job at the aquarium, remember? She starts in a couple weeks, Ryan said. And my old job ended. So we're celebrating endings and beginnings, Madeline added. That's good. Endings are sad, but beginnings are exciting, so together they're medium. Emma's 7-year-old wisdom struck again. Medium is actually perfect right now, Madeline agreed. 2 weeks before Madeline's start date at the aquarium, Ryan made a decision. He'd been planning it for weeks, waiting for the right moment, trying to figure out how to do this in a way that honored both his past and his future. On a Saturday morning, he woke early and drove to a jewelry store in Newport Beach that Sarah's cousin had recommended years ago. The owner was an elderly man who listened carefully as Ryan explained what he wanted. Something simple, meaningful, representing both strength and fluidity. Not a traditional engagement ring, but something that captured who Madeline was. I have something, the jeweler said after a moment. He disappeared into the back and returned with a silver band, delicate but strong, engraved with a wave pattern that seemed to move as light hit it. White gold. The wave design is hand-carved, durable enough for daily wear, beautiful enough for significance. It was perfect. Ryan bought it, had it sized, and tucked the box in his truck's glove compartment while he figured out timing. That weekend, he took Emma to visit Sarah's grave for the first time in months. The cemetery was quiet, well-maintained, the headstone simple. Emma laid flowers, daisies, always daisies, and talked to her mother about school and soccer and Madeline and how life was different now, but still good. Ryan knelt by the headstone, Emma beside him, and said the things he'd been holding. I'm going to ask Madeline to marry me. I wanted you to know, wanted to tell you here. Emma and I, we're building something new, and it doesn't erase what we had. You'll always be Emma's mother. You'll always matter, but I'm ready to move forward, and I think you'd approve. Madeline's good for us. She makes us better. Emma leaned against him. Mommy would like Madeline. They both care about people, and the ocean, and being brave. Yeah, they would have gotten along. They stayed for a while longer, then drove home, and Ryan felt lighter than he had in years. Permission granted, or maybe just permission claimed. Either way, he was ready. The proposal happened on a Sunday evening in early June. Madeline's first week at the aquarium had gone well. She'd come home energized, full of stories about program ideas and the kids she'd met and the touch tank that needed reorganizing. Her knee was strong enough now for walking without assistance, though she still tired easily and couldn't stand for extended periods. Ryan suggested a walk on the beach after dinner, just the two of them while Mrs. Chen watched Emma. Madeline agreed, and they drove to their beach, the one where they'd had their first race, where everything had started. The sun was setting, painting the sky in golds and pinks. Madeline walked slowly beside Ryan, her slight limp the only remaining evidence of her injury. I love this time of day, she said, when the beach empties out and it's just the ocean and sky and that perfect light. Remember the last time we were here at sunset? The race. How could I forget? That was the night everything changed. You challenged me, called me out for holding back, offered yourself as the prize if I was brave enough to actually show up. Madeline smiled. Seemed like a good idea at the time, slightly insane in retrospect. Best insane decision either of us ever made. They walked in comfortable silence until they reached the spot where they'd finished the race. Ryan stopped, taking Madeline's hands. I've been thinking about that night a lot lately, about the challenge, about what you offered, about what I won. You won answers. And my complete humiliation in front of 200 people. I won you. The real you, not the supervisor or the former Olympian or the woman who had everything together. I won your vulnerability, your honesty, your willingness to let me see past the armor. That's what I actually won. Madeline's expression softened. You won me by not treating winning like conquest. You won by seeing me as human. And I want to keep winning you, every single day for the rest of our lives. Ryan pulled the box from his pocket, dropping to one knee in the sand. Madeline Shaw, you taught me that survival isn't the same as living. You showed me what it means to risk everything for connection. You became part of my family, my daughter's life, my future. Will you marry me? He opened the box, revealing the wave-carved ring. Madeline's hands flew to her mouth, tears spilling over. Ryan, I know this is fast. I know we've only been together 6 months. I know there are 1,000 practical reasons to wait, but I also know that I love you completely, that Emma adores you, that you're already family in every way that matters. So yes, it's fast, but it's also right. Madeline was fully crying now, not bothering to hide it. Yes, yes, of course, yes. I love you. I love Emma. I love this life we're building. Yes. Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, the wave pattern catching the sunset light. He stood and pulled her close, kissing her while the ocean crashed behind them and the sky burned gold and everything felt aligned in a way it hadn't since Sarah died. When they broke apart, Madeline was laughing through tears. A wave. You got me a wave. The ocean that tested us seemed appropriate. It's perfect. You're perfect. This is all perfect. She looked at the ring, turning her hand to catch light. Emma doesn't know, does she? Not yet. Wanted to ask you first, tell her together. She's going to lose her mind. They walked back to the truck hand in hand, both giddy with the kind of happiness that felt almost dangerous in its intensity. At Ryan's apartment, Mrs. Chen took one look at them and smiled knowingly. Congratulations, she said simply, and let herself out. Emma was in the living room, half watching TV. She looked up when they entered, immediately zeroing in on their joined hands and ridiculous smiles. What happened? Why do you both look weird? Ryan sat beside her, pulling Madeline down on his other side. You know how you said we're family now? Yeah, because we are. Well, we want to make it official. Madeline and I are getting married. Emma's eyes went huge. She looked at Madeline, at Ryan, at the ring on Madeline's finger. Really? Like actual married with a wedding and everything? If that's okay with you, Madeline said, this affects you too. Your opinion matters. Emma considered this with the seriousness she brought to all major decisions. Will you have a wedding at the beach? Probably. Can I help plan it? Absolutely. And after you're married, will you still be you and Daddy will still be Daddy? Or does everything change? Ryan pulled Emma onto his lap. We'll still be exactly who we are. The only thing that changes is we're making it official that we're a family. Madeline will be my wife, but she's not trying to be your mom. Your mom will always be your mom. But Madeline will be like my stepmom? If you want to call her that, yes, or just Madeline. Whatever feels right to you. Emma looked at Madeline. Can I still call you just Madeline? Because that's who you are to me. That's perfect. I like being just Madeline. Okay then, you can get married, but I get to help pick flowers and stuff. Deal. Emma launched into immediate wedding planning. She had opinions about colors and cake and whether they could have dolphins as a theme. Ryan and Madeline listened, contributing occasionally, mostly just marveling at her enthusiasm. Later, after Emma was asleep, they lay in bed processing the day. Are we crazy? Madeline asked. Getting married this fast? Probably, but I've been crazy before and it worked out terribly. This feels different. How? Because I'm not making this choice from fear or obligation, or because it's what I'm supposed to do. I'm choosing you because you make me want to be brave. Because you fit into our life like you were always meant to be here. Because Emma lights up when you're around. Because I love you in a way that feels nothing like what I had before. And that's okay. It doesn't bother you that it's different from Sarah? It would bother me if it was the same. Different doesn't mean less, it just means new. Ryan pulled her closer. Sarah was my first love. My young love, the mother of my child. You're my second chance love, my grown-up love, my chosen family. Both are real. Both matter. They're just different chapters. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you, probably would have challenged you to some ridiculous competition and then been impressed when you won. Sounds like Emma comes by her competitive spirit honestly. They talked until exhaustion pulled them under, planning nothing and everything, letting the future unfold without trying to control every variable. The wedding happened 3 months later, in September, when the summer crowds had thinned and the ocean was still warm enough for swimming. They kept it small. Emma, Mrs. Chen, a few close friends from work, Derek as Ryan's best man, Madeline's sister who flew in from Boston, looking skeptical but gradually warming to Ryan's quiet steadiness. The ceremony took place on the beach at sunset, officiated by a friend of Mrs. Chen who specialized in non-traditional weddings. Emma was the flower girl, taking her responsibility with deadly seriousness. She'd chosen her own outfit, purple dress with dolphin sneakers, and scattered petals with precision that made Madeline smile. Ryan wore simple slacks and a white shirt, no tie. Madeline wore a knee-length dress, ivory, with the wave ring on her finger catching light. Her knee was strong enough now for walking in sand, though she still favored it slightly. The vows they'd written together were honest, specific, free of cliches. Ryan promised to challenge Madeline when she pushed too hard, to remind her that rest wasn't weakness, to love her on bad knee days and good. Madeline promised to let Ryan help her, to show Emma what resilience looked like, to build a life that honored the past while embracing the future. When the officiant pronounced them married, Emma cheered so loudly several people on the beach turned to look. Ryan kissed his new wife while their daughter danced in the sand, and the ocean kept its eternal rhythm. The reception was at a small restaurant overlooking the water, casual, full of laughter, exactly what they wanted. Emma gave a speech she'd written herself about how Madeline taught her that being brave meant doing scary things anyway, and how she was glad her dad found someone who made him smile again. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. As the evening wound down and Emma fell asleep in a chair, her flower girl dress rumpled and her sneakers kicked off, Ryan and Madeline stepped outside. The beach was dark now, lit only by moon and restaurant lights. "We did it," Madeline said. "We actually built something new." "You sound surprised." "I am, a little. 6 months ago, I was terrified, broken, convinced my life was over. Now I'm married, starting a career I love, part of a family I never thought I'd have. It's almost too much good to believe." "Believe it. You deserve this. We deserve this." They walked to the water's edge, shoes off, letting the surf wash over their feet. Madeline's knee ached from the day, but it was manageable, a reminder of the price she'd paid, but also the strength she'd gained. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing me, for not giving up when it got hard, for choosing this even when it was complicated. Thank you for showing me what it means to risk everything for what matters, for loving Emma, for being the kind of partner who makes me want to be better." Ryan took her hand. "Ready to go home?" "Yeah, let's go home." They collected Emma, said their goodbyes, and drove back to the apartment that was now officially all of theirs. Emma woke enough to stumble inside, still in her dress, and fell asleep immediately in her bed. Ryan and Madeline stood in her doorway, watching her breathe, this small person who'd been brave enough to let a stranger into her life. "She's going to be okay," Madeline whispered. "Whatever comes next, she's going to be okay because she knows what love looks like." "We all are," Ryan said. In their bedroom, exhausted and happy, they fell asleep wrapped around each other. And in the morning, they'd wake to their new life. Messy, imperfect, full of challenges neither could predict, but also full of love, partnership, and the kind of hard-won peace that came from choosing courage over fear. 3 years later, on another Sunday evening, they stood on the same beach with a group of children gathered around them. Madeline's aquarium program had expanded to include free swimming lessons for underprivileged kids, and Ryan had volunteered to help teach. They had 12 students today, ranging from age 5 to 10, all eager and nervous about the water. Emma, now 10 and impossibly mature, helped demonstrate basic strokes. She was patient with the younger kids, encouraging when they struggled, a natural teacher in training. "Okay, everyone, remember what we talked about," Madeline called out. "The ocean demands respect, not fear. You respect it by understanding it. Ready to try some shallow water work?" The children nodded, following Madeline and Ryan into the surf. Madeline's knee held up well these days. Not perfect, never perfect again, but functional enough for swimming, for teaching, for the life she'd built. She'd learned to work with limitations instead of against them, a lesson that served her in more than just physical therapy. Ryan watched her with the kids, patient and encouraging, and marveled at the journey that brought them here. From that first race to this moment, from fear and isolation to family and purpose, they traveled a distance that couldn't be measured in miles. After the lesson, as the sun set and parents collected their children, Emma ran up to them, soaking wet and beaming. "That was so cool. Did you see how Marcus, the little Marcus, not your coworker Marcus, did you see how he went underwater all by himself? He was so scared at first, but he did it." "You were great with him," Madeline said. "Very encouraging." I learned from the best. Emma grinned. Can we get ice cream? Teaching is hard work. They drove to the ice cream shop, the three of them sandy and tired and content. Emma got her usual chocolate chip. Madeline tried some complicated flavor with coconut. Ryan stuck with vanilla. They sat outside watching the evening crowd, not talking much, just being together. Ryan's phone buzzed. A text from Derek. The county had reached out, wanting to discuss bringing Madeline back as a consultant for their new water safety education program. Good money, flexible schedule, acknowledgement that they'd messed up letting her go. He showed Madeline the text. She read it, smiled, and shook her head. Not interested. I'm exactly where I want to be. You sure? It's a good opportunity. I'm sure. I don't need them to validate me anymore. I know my worth. We know our worth. Ryan deleted the text. Fair enough. They finished their ice cream and drove home through neighborhoods now familiar, past landmarks that marked their life together. At a red light, Ryan reached over and took Madeline's hand, the wave ring familiar under his fingers. No regrets? He asked. Not a single one. You? None. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. The light turned green. They drove home to their life, messy and beautiful and hard-won. Emma talked about her upcoming science project from the back seat. Madeline made a grocery list on her phone. Ryan navigated traffic and thought about dinner. It was ordinary. It was everything. And that night, after Emma was asleep and the apartment was quiet, Ryan and Madeline sat on their small balcony watching the distant ocean, listening to the city settle around them. They talked about their students, about Emma's growing independence, about the future stretching out ahead of them, full of possibility. Sometimes I can't believe this is real, Madeline said, that we made it here, that everything worked out. It didn't just work out. We worked for it. Every day we chose this, chose each other, chose to fight for what we were building. That's not luck. That's commitment. Ever the pragmatist? Someone has to be, married to a dreamer. Madeline laughed and leaned against him, comfortable and right. Below them, the city hummed. Above them, stars fought through light pollution. Between them, the kind of quiet contentment that came from knowing exactly where you belonged. They'd started with a challenge, a race, a reckless offer that changed everything. They'd survived injury, investigation, judgment, fear. They'd built a family from broken pieces and learned that the life you don't plan is sometimes better than the one you do. And now, here at the end and the beginning, they had this. Love that had been tested and held strong, a daughter who knew what resilience looked like, careers that mattered, a home they'd made together. It wasn't perfect. It was better than perfect. It was real. Ryan kissed Madeline's forehead, and she smiled without opening her eyes. And somewhere in the apartment, Emma dreamed of dolphins and ocean currents, safe in the knowledge that she was loved completely. The ocean kept its rhythm. The stars kept burning. And in a small apartment in California, a family built from courage and second chances slept peacefully, ready for whatever came next. Because they'd learned the most important lesson, that survival wasn't enough, that hiding kept you safe but small, that love required risk but offered rewards no medal could match. They'd learned to be brave together, and that made all the difference.